Hello, I'm Arthur Reed. Welcome to the World War II History Channel, where we explore the pivotal moments and untold stories of the greatest generation. Even in the suffocating heat of the foundry, a strange, quiet chill seemed to settle over the men who poured the bronze. Welcome, friend. Settle in, let your shoulders drop, and allow the heavy weights of your day to slip away. Tonight, we are going to journey back through the mists of time, stepping into the dim, amber-lit warmth of a workshop long ago. There is no need to worry about the grand, sweeping dates of history right now, or the loud, crashing tides of the world outside. Tonight, we are only looking at the quiet moments. The human moments. The small, forgotten breaths taken in the shadows of a changing world. Imagine, if you will, the smell of damp earth and crushed sand. This is the scent of the casting floor. In a vast room with a high, vaulted ceiling, dust motes dance in the heavy shafts of pale morning light. The air here is always warm, thick with the memory of 1,000 fires. For generations, the men who work in this room have coaxed beauty out of fire and rock. They are quiet men. They have soot pressed deep into the lines of their palms, and they move with the slow, deliberate grace of those who respect the ancient magic of liquid metal. We find ourselves standing near a master craftsman. He is an older man, his face withered like the very bronze he shapes, his apron heavy with years of labor. His hands have cast gentle church bells that ring out over sleepy villages. They have shaped delicate statues of weeping angels for silent gardens. But today, the wooden mold resting in the packed earth before him is different. It is massive. It is the wing of a great eagle. He runs a calloused thumb along the edge of the wooden pattern before it is pressed into the casting sand. The lines of this bird are not like the soft, organic creatures of the forest he so loves. These feathers are sharp, geometric, and rigid. They do not look as though they were made to catch the wind, they look as though they were made to cut through it. The craftsman does not know the full political weight of the symbol he is building. He is just a man with a family to feed, a rent to pay, and a trade he learned from his father. Yet, as he packs the dark, damp sand around the wooden form, smoothing it with gentle, rhythmic pats, a quiet unease rests in his chest. Around him, the foundry begins to wake. The soft murmur of voices hums beneath the crackle of the great furnaces. Other men arrive, shaking the morning dew from their coats. They are fathers, sons, and brothers. They share quiet smiles in the dim light. One of the younger apprentices, a boy barely old enough to shave, offers the older craftsman a piece of dark rye bread wrapped in brown paper. The older man takes it with a grateful nod, breaking it in two and handing half back. In these small, stolen moments of the morning, the war that is slowly brewing on the horizon feels like a distant storm. Here, in the glow of the embers, life is simple. The men sit on upturned wooden crates, sipping warm chicory coffee from tin cups. The older craftsman reaches into his pocket and pulls out a folded, slightly crumpled piece of paper. It is a letter from his daughter, who has gone to live in the countryside. He traces the loops of her handwriting, feeling a soft ache of longing. She writes of wildflowers and quiet streams, of a world so far removed from the harsh, industrial lines of the eagle waiting in the sand. He smiles, a private, gentle thing, and tucks the letter back close to his heart. It is this love, this quiet, enduring love for his family, that fuels his tired arms day after day. Soon, the time comes for the pouring. The rhythm of the workshop shifts. The men move in an unspoken, synchronized ballet. The furnace is opened, and a brilliant, blinding light spills across the floor, painting the walls in hues of molten gold and fierce orange. The heat is a physical weight, pressing against their skin like a warm blanket. But there is no rushing, no panic. Just the steady, practiced movements of men who know their craft. They guide the massive crucible, suspended from heavy chains, over the waiting mold. The liquid bronze inside is beautiful, terrifyingly so. It glows with a mesmerizing, sun-like intensity, bubbling with a soft, hissing whisper. The craftsman holds his breath, his eyes narrowed against the glare, and nods. The metal flows. It falls like a ribbon of pure light, sinking into the dark earth of the mold, filling the hollow spaces where the great wing will soon take shape. The air fills with the smell of burning sand and the sharp, metallic tang of copper and tin marrying in the heat. As the liquid metal disappears into the ground, the craftsman wonders, just for a fleeting moment, what this eagle will see when it is finally hoisted high into the sky. Will it look down upon a city of peace, or a city of shadows? He pushes the thought away, focusing only on the steady stream of light, ensuring the cast is flawless, pouring all his quiet dedication into a shape he does not truly understand. It is in these silent spaces, the hidden thoughts of ordinary people, the secrets buried beneath the surface of grand historical events, that the true story of our world is lived. So much of history is shaped in the shadows, far from the eyes of the public, forged by quiet hands and secret intentions. As we reflect on the hidden currents of this time, and the untold stories lingering just out of sight, I want to take a brief moment to share something deeply special with you. I know how much you value these forgotten layers of the past, and I want to offer you a way to explore them further, as a gift from me to you. I've put together a completely free ebook called The Shadow War, 5 Top Secret Operations That Shaped World War II, available through my gentle weekly email newsletter. It explores the incredibly moving, deeply human stories of covert missions and the everyday people who quietly altered the course of the world. I would be honored to send it to your inbox, where we can continue to uncover these mysteries together. But please, to keep yourself safe, only use the secure link I've placed in the description below. If you try to search for this on the internet, the top results are unfortunately often fake websites designed to scam you, and I want to make sure you are protected. It means the world to me that we can share this journey safely. Now, let us return to the quiet warmth of the foundry. The pouring is finished. The blinding light of the liquid metal is gone, hidden deep within the earth of the mold, slowly fading from a brilliant star to a dull, angry red, and finally, into darkness. The process of cooling is a slow, patient waiting game. The men sit back, wiping the sweat from their soot-stained brows. The tension in the room exhales in a collective, dusty sigh. Hours pass. The light slipping through the high windows turns from the bright, pale yellow of morning to the soft, bruised violet of late afternoon. The workshop grows quieter, the fires banked and sleeping beneath blankets of gray ash. Finally, the master craftsman kneels beside the packed earth. It is time. With a heavy wooden mallet, he strikes the side of the mold. The sound is a dull, hollow thud that echoes through the cavernous room. He strikes it again. The baked sand begins to fracture, cracking like a dry riverbed. Carefully, reverently, the men begin to brush away the broken earth. And there, emerging from the dirt, is the bronze. It is no longer glowing liquid, nor is it soft wood. It is cold, hard, and impossibly heavy. As they sweep the last of the dust from the surface, the sharp, imposing lines of the eagle's wing are revealed in the twilight. The metal has captured every detail, every harsh angle. Even lying there in the dirt of the workshop floor, pieces of it still incomplete, it carries a strange, heavy presence. The men stand in a circle around it, their hands resting on their hips, staring down at what they have made. Nobody speaks. There is no celebration, no cheering. It is just another day's work, yet the silence in the room feels thick, like the calm before a very long rain. The young apprentice steps forward and runs a tentative finger along the edge of a bronze feather. It is still warm to the touch, retaining the ghost of the fire that birthed it. He looks up at the master craftsman, his eyes wide and reflecting the shadows of the room. The older man places a gentle, reassuring hand on the boy's shoulder. It is a silent gesture that says, "We are just makers." The metal is not ours to command once it leaves this room. The day is over. The whistle blows, a long, low mournful sound that drifts through the city streets. The men move to the deep tin basins along the wall, scrubbing the black soot and sand from their hands and faces with rough soap and cold water. They wash away the dust of the eagle, leaving it behind in the darkening hall. As the master craftsman steps out of the foundry, the cool evening air is a balm against his flushed skin. He pulls his coat tight around his shoulders. The street lamps are just beginning to flicker to life, casting gentle pools of golden light on the cobblestones. He begins the long walk home, his footsteps falling in a steady, calming rhythm. He passes lighted windows where families are sitting down to dinner. He hears the faint, muffled sound of a radio playing a soft, melancholic tune. He sees a mother pulling a blanket over a sleeping child in a parlor window. These are the things that matter. Not the giant bronze birds waiting in the dark. Not the cold, sharp lines of power. But the soft, fragile pulse of human life carrying on, day by day, hoping for peace, holding on to love. When he reaches his own small apartment, he unlocks the door and is greeted by the quiet familiarity of home. The ticking of the clock on the mantelpiece. The smell of old wood and the small stew simmering on the stove. He sits down in his favorite armchair, the one with the frayed arms, and takes a deep, cleansing breath. He reaches into his pocket and touches the letter from his daughter once more, a talisman against the chill of the world outside. Back in the foundry, the vast room is completely dark. The fires are asleep. The tools lie silent on their benches. And resting in the center of the floor, waiting for the morning, the heavy bronze wings lie motionless. They are tethered to the earth for now, cold and quiet. They do not know of the skies they will soon dominate, or the city that will crumble beneath their gaze. They are just metal, born from the sweat and quiet resilience of ordinary men. Close your eyes now. Let the warmth of the foundry fade into the cool, peaceful night. Let the ticking of the clock lull you into stillness. The day's work is done. The shadows are long, and the world is drifting off to rest. Sleep well, and let the quiet currents of history carry you gently into dreams. The morning the sky changed, it smelled of sweet yeast, burnt wood, and cold cobblestones. Welcome back, my friend. Please, make yourself comfortable. Draw your blankets a little closer, let your head sink deeply into your pillow, and take a long, slow breath in, and let it out. Tonight, we are stepping once more into the quiet, forgotten shadows of the past. We are leaving behind the noise of the modern world, the rushing clocks, and the endless demands of the day. Here, in the soft, flickering light of our shared history, there is only the gentle murmur of human hearts. There is nothing you need to solve tonight. Just listen, and let the story carry you. Long before the grand buildings are written about in heavy textbooks, they are simply part of a neighborhood. They exist alongside the everyday lives of ordinary people. To understand the weight of the great bronze eagle, we must not look at the politicians who ordered it, but at the people who had to live beneath it. Imagine a small, narrow street in Berlin, just a short walk from the grand avenues. The air is brisk, carrying the sharp, clean chill of an early autumn morning. It is before dawn, that deeply peaceful hour when the city is still wrapped in a soft, indigo slumber. In a small bakery on the corner, the lights are already glowing with a warm, amber hue. This is the domain of a baker named Johannes. Johannes is a man of quiet routines. His hands, dusted permanently with white flour, are strong and gentle. For 20 years, he has stood at this wooden counter, kneading dough in the quiet hours of the dark. He loves the simple magic of it, how water, flour, and salt, when treated with patience and warmth, transform into something that sustains life. He loves the soft, breathing sound of the dough as it rises, and the comforting, crackling hearth of his deep stone oven. For Johannes, the world makes sense within the four walls of his bakery. It is a place of nourishment. A place of warmth. But outside his frost-rimmed window, the world is shifting. On this particular morning, as Johannes steps out onto the pavement to sweep the lingering autumn leaves from his doorway, he notices a strange, heavy rumbling in the distance. He leans on his broom, his breath pluming in the crisp air like soft white smoke. Down at the end of his street, where the roofs of the old city give way to the newly constructed Chancellery building, a crowd has gathered. They are entirely silent. Johannes pulls his woolen cardigan tighter around his chest and walks slowly toward the avenue. He stands at the edge of the onlookers, looking up. There, suspended against the pale, bruised purple of the morning sky, is the eagle. It is the same bronze giant we saw born in the heat of the foundry, now cold and impossibly massive. Thick steel cables wrap around its harsh, geometric wings. A great industrial crane groans under the immense weight, its gears grinding as it slowly hoists the colossus higher and higher. The metal catches the first, fragile rays of the morning sun, glinting with a dull, unyielding light. Johannes watches the faces of the people around him. There is no cheering. There is no music. There is only a quiet, collective holding of breath. A young mother beside him unconsciously pulls her small son a little closer to her skirts. An elderly man holding a satchel of newspapers stares upward, his eyes clouded with a weary, unspoken apprehension. They are watching the skyline of their home being altered, not by trees or steeples, but by a heavy, looming symbol of authority. As the eagle is finally lowered onto its grand stone pedestal high above the street, a profound shift occurs. It is not just the physical space it occupies, it is the energy it casts downward. Johannes watches as the sun continues to rise, and the shadow of the great bronze wings stretches out across the plaza. It crawls over the cobblestones, long and dark, and touches the edge of his neighborhood. Johannes turns away. He walks back to the familiar, sweet-smelling sanctuary of his bakery, but a lingering chill has settled between his shoulder blades. Later that afternoon, when the initial rush of customers has faded, Johannes sits at his small wooden desk in the back room. He opens a worn, leather-bound journal. The pages are filled with the mundane, beautiful details of his life, recipes, the changing of the seasons, the birth of his niece. But today, his pen scratches a different kind of entry. He writes, "The sky feels heavier today. They placed a great bird on the roof of the new building. It is so very large, and it looks down on us with such cold eyes. When the sun passed behind it this afternoon, its shadow fell directly across our street. It felt as though a cloud had covered the sun, but the sky was perfectly clear. I gave Frau Muller an extra loaf of bread today. She seemed so worried about her boy. I think we all need a little extra warmth right now." In those few, simple sentences, Johannes captured the true essence of that era. History is rarely felt as grand, sweeping moments by the people living through it. It is felt as a sudden shadow on a familiar street. It is felt as a quiet worry over a cup of tea. It is felt in the desperate, beautiful need to share an extra loaf of bread to combat a creeping cold. When we try to understand the sheer scale of the past, visual reminders become so profoundly important. It is one thing to read about the immense size of the structures, the ships, and the planes of the Second World War. It is another entirely to see them, to feel the weight of their presence, and to understand the visual shadow they cast over the lives of everyday people like Johannes. If you, like me, find that seeing the physical artifacts and the grand scale of this era helps you connect more deeply with the human stories behind them, I want to share a gentle recommendation with you. On Amazon, there is a wonderful selection of authentic, carefully preserved World War II memorabilia that allows you to hold a small, quiet piece of history in your own hands. Alternatively, if you prefer to visualize the awe-inspiring scale of the period through film, the movie Midway, available on Prime Video, offers a staggering visual perspective of the era's massive mechanical giants. Exploring these visual and physical touchstones can be a beautiful way to honor the past. Please, to keep yourself safe, only use the secure link I've placed in the description below. If you try to search for this on the internet, the top results are unfortunately often fake websites designed to scam you, and I want to make sure you are protected. Now, let us return to the warm, flower-dusted air of the bakery. As the afternoon deepens into early evening, the bells above Johannes's shop door chime a cheerful, melodic greeting. A young woman enters, her cheeks flushed pink from the cooling air. She is a clerk who works in one of the lower offices of the new Chancellery. She looks terribly tired, carrying a heavy stack of envelopes tied with brown string. She approaches the counter, her eyes dropping to the wooden floor as she opens her small coin purse. She counts out a few meager pfennigs, enough for perhaps a single, stale roll from yesterday's baking. She explains, her voice barely a whisper, that the new building is so vast, so endless in its corridors, that she feels entirely lost within it. She says she feels like a tiny, insignificant speck working beneath the giant bronze claws on the roof. Johannes does not offer grand political advice. He does not speak of the looming war or the changing skyline. He simply reaches into his glass display case and pulls out a fresh, beautifully braided loaf of challah bread, still warm from the stone hearth. He wraps it carefully in thick, white paper, tying it with a piece of baker's twine. He hands it to the young clerk, gently waving away the few small coins she offers. "Take it," he says softly, his eyes crinkling with a warm, reassuring smile. "You cannot carry such heavy letters on an empty stomach. The building may be large, but you are not insignificant. You are here, and you are seen." The young woman takes the warm package, a sudden, bright sheen of tears pooling in her tired eyes. She whispers her thanks, the heavy weight on her shoulders seeming to lift just a fraction, and steps back out into the gathering twilight. This is the everyday heroism that the history books so often overlook. In the face of cold, imposing architecture, and the shadow of rigid, unfeeling bronze, the human heart rebels with small, stubborn acts of tenderness. A warm loaf of bread. A comforting smile. A quiet journal entry that bears witness to the truth. The eagle above may have been designed to project absolute power, to make the people below feel small and compliant. But down on the street level, hidden behind the lighted windows of bakeries and living rooms, the people were quietly holding on to their humanity. As night finally falls over Berlin, the great bronze eagle becomes nothing more than a dark, jagged silhouette against the sea of stars. It cannot feel the cold wind that whips around its wings. It cannot seek shelter. But down below, the city glows with 1,000 tiny, defiant lights. Johannes closes his shop. He wipes down the wooden counter one last time, sweeps the floor with slow, rhythmic strokes, and banks the fire in his oven so it will stay warm until morning. He locks the door, stepping out into the quiet street. He does not look up at the Chancellery roof. Instead, he looks at the warm, golden light spilling from the windows of his neighbors. He hears the faint sound of a cello playing from an upstairs apartment. He smells the lingering scent of wood smoke and roasting potatoes. He knows that tomorrow, the shadow will return. He knows the world is changing in ways he cannot control. But he also knows that tomorrow, he will wake up in the dark. He will mix the flour, the water, and the salt. He will light the fire. And he will continue to feed his neighbors, passing warmth from his hands to theirs, quietly defying the cold metal in the sky. And so, my friend, as our time together draws to a close tonight, I want you to remember Johannes. Whenever you feel overwhelmed by the grand, heavy shadows of the world, remember that the most powerful things we possess are often the softest. A kind word. A gentle gesture. The quiet, unyielding warmth of the human spirit. Let the image of the cold eagle fade from your mind now. Replace it with the warm, golden glow of the bakery oven. Let the smell of sweet yeast and crackling wood drift into your thoughts. Your day is done. The shadows cannot reach you here. Rest your eyes, let your breathing slow, and drift into a deep, peaceful slumber. Good night. The polished marble floors held no warmth, only the endless, hollow echo of hurried shoes. Welcome, friend. I am so glad you have returned to this quiet space. Settle in where you are. Let the stillness of the room gather around you like a soft, familiar blanket. Close your eyes and let the breath fall slow and deep from your chest. Tonight, the world outside your window does not matter. The rushing clocks have stopped. The loud, demanding voices of the day have faded into a gentle, harmless whisper. We are going to step back in time once more, walking quietly through the corridors of a history that is often painted only in broad, heavy strokes. But tonight, we will not look at the grand architecture or the fierce metal above. We will look at the fragile, beating hearts moving within the stone. The new building was designed to make a person feel incredibly small. It was a cavern of impossibly high ceilings, vast stretches of blood-red marble, and heavy tapestries that swallowed the light. It was a place constructed to project an illusion of absolute, unshakable power. High above the roofline, braving the cold winds and the rain, the giant bronze eagle kept its silent, blind watch over the city. But a building, no matter how imposing, is merely an empty shell without the people who breathe life into its hallways. Beneath the shadow of those great bronze wings, an army of ordinary people moved through their days. These were not the men who gave the orders. They were the ones who carried them. They were the clerks, the typists, the janitors, and the messengers. There were people who worried about the rising cost of milk, who missed their mothers, who nursed quiet, unspoken fears as the world around them began to slowly fracture. Let us follow the slow, rhythmic footsteps of a man named Elias. Elias was a messenger. He was an older man, his hair thinned to a soft, wispy silver, his shoulders gently stooped from a lifetime of carrying things that belonged to other people. He wore a gray uniform that was always just a little too loose around his collar, and he walked with a faint, persistent limp, a quiet souvenir from the mud and the trenches of an older, different war. Every morning, long before the sun had fully crested the horizon, Elias arrived at the heavy service doors of the Chancellery. He would trade the crisp, living air of the city streets for the stale, polished chill of the interior. His job was simple, yet it held the weight of the world. He pushed a wooden cart with slightly squeaky wheels through the endless maze of corridors, delivering the mail. To Elias, the building felt like the belly of a sleeping leviathan. The long hallways stretched out before him, lined with tall, heavy doors of polished mahogany. Behind each door sat a desk, and on each desk sat a tray waiting for the paper he carried. Paper was the true, life-giving blood of this grand machine. Elias knew the subtle weight of an envelope. His calloused fingers could tell the difference between a routine, lifeless memorandum and a letter heavy with dread. He carried requisitions for office supplies right alongside documents that would quietly alter the fates of thousands. He did not read them. He did not want to. He only wanted to push his cart, keep his head bowed respectfully, and make it home to his small, quiet garden where he grew pale green cabbages and sweet peas. As he walked, the soft squeak rattle of his cart became a comforting, grounding rhythm in the vast silence. He would look down at his hands resting on the wooden handle. They were the hands of a gardener, stained with soil that no amount of harsh soap could fully wash away. He liked the contrast. He liked knowing that while he walked across floors meant to intimidate kings, he still had a piece of the real, breathing earth hiding beneath his fingernails. On the fourth floor, at the end of a particularly drafty corridor, was room 412. This was the typing pool. When Elias opened the heavy door, the sound washed over him like a sudden rainstorm. Dozens of heavy metal typewriters clacked and rang in a frenetic, mechanical heartbeat. The air in the room smelled of hot metal, sharp black ink, and the faint, powdery scent of lavender soap. Near the back of the room, sitting by a massive window that let in a pale, diluted sunlight, was a young woman named Mathilde. She was barely 20 years old, with soft, tired eyes and hair pinned back practically from her face. Mathilde's fingers danced across the black keys of her machine with a desperate, blur-like speed. She was terrified of making a mistake. In this building, mistakes were not easily forgiven. She stared blindly at the handwritten draft she was tasked with transcribing, trying desperately to focus only on the letters, the grammar, the spacing. She tried not to read the actual words. If she only saw the letters as shapes, she didn't have to carry the burden of their meaning. She could pretend she was just a pianist playing a very loud, very harsh song. But the marble floors were cold, and the chill seeped up through the soles of her practical leather shoes. She shivered, her shoulders tense, her neck aching from hours of looking down. Elias stopped his cart beside her desk. He did not speak. Talking was discouraged in the typing pool. Instead, he reached into the deep, worn pocket of his gray coat. He bypassed the official envelopes and pulled out something entirely different. It was a small, perfectly round, deeply crimson apple. He had polished it on his sleeve until it gleamed like a jewel. He placed it gently on the edge of Mathilde's desk, right beside a stack of bleak, imposing documents. It was a tiny, vibrant splash of life in a room suffocated by gray ink and pale paper. Mathilde stopped typing. The sudden silence of her machine was deafening to her own ears. She looked at the apple, and then up at Elias. The old messenger offered her a smile, not a grand, sweeping gesture, but a small, crinkling warmth around his eyes. It was a silent acknowledgement. It said, "I see you. You are human. We are human, even here." Mathilde's shoulders dropped. A long, trembling sigh escaped her lips. She reached out and touched the smooth, cool skin of the fruit, feeling a sudden, overwhelming rush of gratitude. For a fleeting moment, she was not a cog in a frightening machine. She was just a girl who was hungry, being cared for by a kind man. It is these raw, tender moments that are so often lost in the sweeping currents of time. The history books show us the architecture, the speeches, the terrifying metal birds perched on the rooftops. But they so rarely show us the old man with a limp offering an apple to a frightened typist. They blur out the humanity to focus on the grand narrative. If you, like me, find yourself yearning to see past that blur, to uncover the raw, unvarnished truth of the past and connect with a community of people who honor these hidden human stories, I want to extend a warm, personal invitation to you. I have created a Patreon space where we dive much deeper into these quiet mysteries. There, I share completely free, long-form podcasts, unblurred and raw historical video sections that simply cannot be shown elsewhere, and a small tip jar for those who wish to support the massive research that goes into keeping these delicate stories alive. It is a wonderful, peaceful community of history lovers, and I would be so honored to welcome you there. Please, to keep yourself safe, only use the secure link I've placed in the description below. If you try to search for this on the internet, the top results are unfortunately often fake websites designed to scam you, and I want to make sure you are protected. Now, let us return to the quiet, ticking clock of the typing pool. The afternoon slowly stretched into evening. The pale light filtering through Mathilde's window turned the color of bruised plums, casting long, stark shadows across the floorboards. The rhythm of the typewriters began to slow. The energy in the building was shifting, draining away as the day's work finally met its end. The heavy bells of a distant clock tower chimed, their deep voices vibrating through the walls of the Chancellery. The spell was broken. Mathilde covered her typewriter with a dark cloth, patting it once as if putting a difficult creature to sleep. She picked up the red apple, slipping it carefully into her satchel. She would save it for her little brother at home. The thought of his smile brought a genuine, fleeting warmth to her chest. Down in the lower levels, Elias parked his empty wooden cart against a pale stone wall. He unbuttoned the tight collar of his uniform, letting out a long, slow breath. He took his gray cap from his head, his hands tracing the familiar, worn felt. As the workers began to pour out of the heavy bronze doors and into the gathering twilight, they did not look like parts of a terrifying empire. They looked like ordinary, exhausted people. They huddled into their coats, wrapping scarves tightly around their necks to ward off the biting evening wind. They hurried toward the tram stations, their minds turning away from the marble corridors and back to the realities of their own lives, to boiling potatoes, to mending socks, to listening to the radio in the dim light of their living rooms. Elias stepped out into the crisp night air. The city was quieting down. He stopped for a moment on the edge of the Grand Plaza and looked back at the building. High above, resting on its stone pedestal, the great bronze eagle was a jagged silhouette against the sea of stars. It looked imposing, immovable. It was designed to last for 1,000 years. But Elias knew a secret. He knew that the eagle was blind. It could not see the letters he carried. It could not taste the sweetness of an apple. It knew nothing of the cold marble, or the tired fingers of the typists, or the quiet, enduring resilience of the human heart. The metal was dead, but the people beneath it were vibrantly, stubbornly alive. Elias turned his back on the Chancellery and began the long walk home to his garden. His footsteps were slow, but they were steady. He looked up, past the dark wings on the roof, toward the endless, scattered diamonds of the night sky. The moon was a slender crescent of pure silver, offering a gentle, forgiving light over the sleeping city. Let that gentle light wash over you now. The heavy doors of the past are closing for the night. The typewriters are silent. The cart rests in the shadows. The day is done, and there is nothing left for you to carry. Let the tension melt from your shoulders. Let your breathing match the slow, steady rhythm of Elias walking home in the starlight. You are safe here, in the quiet dark. Drift away into the peaceful current of the night. Sleep well, my friend. Sleep well. Even stone walls can only hold so many secrets before they begin to whisper. Welcome back, my friend. The day is finally over. The heavy lifting of the hours is done, and now, the night belongs entirely to you. Please, draw your blankets up, let your head sink deeply into your pillow, and let the tension in your jaw soften. Breathe in the quiet of your room, and as you breathe out, let the worries of the present slip away into the dark. Tonight, we are going to return to a time that feels very far away, but is tethered to us by the simple, enduring beat of the human heart. We are not looking at the grand, sweeping maps of history tonight. We are looking at the quiet, hidden spaces between the lines. Imagine a courtyard deep within the belly of the new Chancellery. It is an inner sanctum, a square of cold, gray stone bordered on all four sides by towering, windowed walls. If you stand in the center and look straight up, the sky is reduced to a small, pale rectangle. It feels like standing at the bottom of a very deep, very quiet well. The air here is sharp. It is late autumn, and the frost has already begun to lace the edges of the cobblestones with delicate, crystalline webs. Above, unseen from this low vantage point, the great bronze eagle rests on its stone perch, facing outward toward a changing world. But down here, in the courtyard, the only movement is the slow, deliberate sweeping of a broom. The broom belongs to Klaus. He is the groundskeeper, a man whose face is lined like the bark of an old oak tree, his shoulders rounded beneath a heavy wool coat. Klaus has worked in these gardens since before the new, imposing walls were built around him. He knows the soil. He knows how the shadows stretch across the yard as the afternoon wanes. And, more than anything else, he knows how to be invisible. In a building where everyone is constantly watching everyone else, invisibility is a precious gift. Klaus sweeps the fallen, brittle leaves with a slow, hypnotic rhythm. Swish. A pause. Swish. A pause. The sound is a gentle, grounding metronome in the hollow silence of the courtyard. Lately, the atmosphere within the walls has shifted. The loud, confident boots that once echoed through the marble corridors have grown softer, more hurried. The grand doors no longer swing open with bravado, they are opened carefully and closed quietly. The people who work inside, the clerks, the adjutants, the typists, they walk with their heads bowed just a fraction lower. The distant, booming certainty of the war has begun to crack, and through those cracks, a cold, creeping draft of fear has entered the building. It is not spoken of course. To speak of fear is dangerous. But Klaus sees it. He reads it in the tightened jaws of the men smoking nervously by the service doors. He sees it in the dark, exhausted hollows beneath the eyes of the women hurrying across the stones. The walls have ears, the saying goes, and so the people have learned to communicate in whispers, in glances, and the quiet passing of paper in the shadows. A heavy wooden door groans open, and a young woman steps out into the biting cold. Her name is Greta. She is a secretary from the upper floors, and she has left her coat at her desk, braving the chill just to escape the stifling, paranoid air of the offices for a single minute. She wraps her arms around herself, shivering, her breath blooming in soft white clouds in front of her face. Klaus continues to sweep. He does not stop, but he slowly shifts his path, drawing the rhythmic swish of his broom closer to where Greta is standing in the shadow of a stone archway. Greta looks around. The courtyard is empty, save for the old groundskeeper. Her hand, trembling slightly from the cold and from nerves, slips into the pocket of her skirt. She pulls out a small, folded square of paper. It is a letter to her mother. In this building, all official mail, and even the personal mail of the staff, is quietly monitored. If Greta were to put this letter in the outbox on her desk, unseen eyes would read it. Thick, black ink would cross out anything deemed improper, anything that hinted at the heavy, suffocating dread that she feels pressing down on her every day. The state demands unwavering optimism, but Greta's heart is simply tired. Klaus sweeps his pile of dry leaves until he is standing just an arm's length from her. He does not look up. He keeps his eyes on the cobblestones. Greta steps forward. With a motion so quick and so subtle it is almost invisible, she drops the folded paper into the deep, patch-sewn pocket of Klaus's heavy coat. Klaus nods, just once, barely a tilt of his chin. It is an unspoken promise. He will take this letter out of the building. He will walk it through the winding streets of his own quiet neighborhood when his shift is over, and he will drop it into a civilian postbox, far away from the watchful eyes of the Chancellery. He risks his own safety to do this, but he does it because he has a daughter Greta's age, and he knows the desperate, hollow ache of a mother waiting for a truthful word. As Greta turns and hurries back into the warmth of the building, Klaus feels the weight of the paper against his side. It is lighter than a feather, yet it holds a heavy, profound truth. If we could read Greta's letter, we would not find military secrets. We would find the desperate, poetic confessions of a frightened girl. She would write about how the grand red marble of the hallways reminds her of cold meat. She would write about how the giant bronze eagle on the roof feels not like a protector, but like a predator, its dark weight pressing down on the ceilings, making it hard to breathe. She would tell her mother that she misses the smell of real coffee, the sound of laughter that isn't forced, and the simple comfort of sitting by the hearth without listening for sirens in the dark. These are the true artifacts of the era. The raw, unfiltered emotions that were smuggled out in pockets and whispered in courtyards. So much of the history we are shown is carefully curated. The official photographs of that time display gleaming architecture, smiling crowds, and towering symbols of strength. But beneath that polished veneer, the reality was deeply human, beautifully fragile, and often heartbreakingly stark. The truth lived in the unseen, unvarnished moments. If you, like me, feel a deep, gentle calling to look past the official narratives and connect with the raw, uncensored reality of the past, I want to share something meaningful with you. I have curated a special digital collection available on my Gumroad page. It contains rare, profoundly moving historical images and video fragments of the era, moments of raw humanity, stark truths, and uncensored reality that are simply too restricted to be shown on this platform. It is a quiet, powerful archive for those who wish to bear witness to the history that was kept out of the official spotlight. Please, to keep yourself safe, only use the secure link I've placed in the description below. If you try to search for this on the internet, the top results are unfortunately often fake websites designed to scam you, and I want to make sure you are protected. Now, let us return to the quiet courtyard, where the twilight is deepening into night. Klaus has finished sweeping. The cobblestones are clear, the leaves gathered into neat, humble piles. The sky above the courtyard is no longer pale, it has turned the color of deep, bruised indigo, dotted with the first, fragile pricks of starlight. The heavy bells inside the Chancellery begin to chime the end of the day. The sound is muffled by the thick stone, bleeding out into the cold air. Klaus takes his broom and places it gently in the wooden shed tucked away in the corner of the yard. He buttons his coat all the way to his chin, his fingers brushing against the hidden square of paper in his pocket. It is safe. He walks toward the service exit, joining the slow, silent stream of workers leaving the building. They do not speak. They pull their collars up and step out into the sprawling, darkened streets of Berlin. As Klaus walks home, the grand, imposing silhouette of the Chancellery fades into the distance behind him. The great bronze eagle is swallowed by the night, invisible in the dark. But the letter in his pocket feels warm against his side. It is a small, quiet act of rebellion. A tiny flame of human connection carefully guarded against the cold, indifferent wind. When Klaus finally reaches his neighborhood, the streets are quiet. He stops by a small, unremarkable iron post box on a corner. He looks around, listening to the silence of the sleeping houses. He pulls the letter from his pocket, smooths the wrinkled corner with his calloused thumb, and drops it into the slot. It makes a soft, definitive thud as it falls into the dark. A breath of relief escapes Klaus's lips. It is done. Greta's whispered truth is on its way, carried by the slow, gentle hands of the ordinary world, far beneath the heavy wings of the empire. Klaus turns toward his own small home. He will light the stove. He will boil water for tea. He will sit in his worn armchair and listen to the wind rattling the window panes, knowing that today, in the shadow of giants, he did something incredibly small and profoundly beautiful. Let the quiet heroism of Klaus soothe you now. The world can be vast and frightening, filled with heavy stone and cold metal. But the true strength, the lasting warmth, always resides in the small, unseen kindnesses we offer one another. The courtyard is empty now. The sweeping is done. The letter is safe. There is nothing left for you to worry about tonight. Let the dark indigo of the sky wash over your mind. Let your breathing settle into the slow, steady rhythm of a quiet walk home. The night is holding you gently. Drift now, softly, into the peace of your own quiet dreams. Sleep well. Long before the first siren wailed, the dogs in the city would always sit up and listen to the dark. Welcome, friend. I am so glad you have found your way back here tonight. Settle into the warmth of your bed. Let the pillows rise up to meet you, and allow your shoulders to sink completely into the mattress. Take a slow, deep breath in, filling your chest with quiet air, and let it all go. The day is finished. The outside world, with all its noise and rushing and demands, cannot reach you here. Tonight, we are going to return to the shadows of the past, but we are not going to look at the terrifying things in the sky. We are going to look at the beautiful, quiet warmth of the people waiting beneath the earth. There was a time when the evenings in Berlin ceased to belong to the street lamps and the glowing windows of cafes. As the war dragged on, the nights belonged to the dark. As the sun dipped below the horizon, a heavy, velvet silence would fall over the neighborhoods. Blackout curtains, thick and unyielding, were pulled tightly across every pane of glass. From above, the city was meant to look like an empty, sleeping forest. But beneath those darkened roofs, the city was holding its breath. High above it all, perched on the grand, imposing roof of the Chancellery, the giant bronze eagle stood watch. It was entirely indifferent to the cold wind that whistled through its sharp, rigid feathers. It felt no fear. It was a creature of absolute, unbending metal, a symbol built to project invincibility. It stared out into the empty night sky, waiting for a storm it could neither feel nor understand. But a symbol cannot offer comfort. When the sky finally began to hum with the deep, vibrating thrum of distant engines, the eagle offered no shelter. Let us look away from the cold roof. Let us move down into the streets, to a small apartment building just a few blocks from the Grand Plaza. Here, the hum in the sky was not a matter of politics or empires. It was simply a signal to gather what mattered most. In a small room on the second floor, a mother named Clara was already awake. She did not panic when the low, mournful wail of the air raid siren began to rise through the streets. The sound had become a strange, terrible routine, a grim lullaby that signaled the start of a long night. Clara moved with quiet, practiced efficiency in the dim light of a single, shielded candle. She reached into a worn wooden crib and lifted her small son, Leo. He was heavy with sleep, his cheek warm and flushed against her shoulder. She wrapped him tightly in a thick woolen blanket, one that her own grandmother had knitted years ago. In her other hand, she picked up a small, battered leather suitcase that always sat waiting by the door. It did not contain gold or grand treasures. It held a thermos of warm, sweet tea, a few slices of dense bread, important papers, and a small, carved wooden horse that Leo loved. These were the true treasures of the dark. Clara stepped out into the hallway. The air was already thick with the hurried, shuffling sounds of her neighbors. There was no shouting, no screaming. There was only the soft, collective murmur of a community moving together toward safety. They descended the narrow wooden stairs, their shadows dancing tall and long against the peeling wallpaper in the candlelight. Down they went, away from the sky, away from the eagle, and into the deep, echoing belly of the cellar. The basement smelled of damp earth, old coal, and stored potatoes. It was a humble, ugly place, completely devoid of the red marble and polished mahogany of the Chancellery just down the street. But as the neighbors settled onto wooden benches and overturned crates, pulling their coats tightly around themselves, the cellar became something beautiful. It became a sanctuary. Above them, the sky began to fall. It did not sound like the loud, crashing explosions you see in the moving pictures. Buried deep under the brick in the earth, the falling of the bombs sounded like distant, heavy thunder rolling across a mountain range. The ground beneath their feet would tremble slightly, a deep, vibrating shudder that traveled up through the soles of their shoes. Dust, fine as powdered sugar, would drift down from the wooden rafters like a slow, gray snow. In the dim, flickering light of a kerosene lamp, Clara held Leo tight to her chest. The little boy stirred, his eyes fluttering open as the building gave a particularly deep groan. He looked up at the dark, dusty ceiling, a small whimper escaping his lips. Beside them sat Herr Weber, an elderly watchmaker who lived on the ground floor. His hands, usually so steady when working with tiny gears and springs, trembled slightly in his lap. But when he heard Leo whimper, Herr Weber reached into the pocket of his heavy overcoat. He pulled out a single, wrapped peppermint drop. It was a rare, precious thing in those days. With a soft, crinkling sound that seemed incredibly loud in the hushed cellar, he unwrapped the candy and offered it to the boy with a gentle, reassuring smile. Leo took it, the sweet, sharp taste of the peppermint distracting him from the rumbling earth above. Clara caught Herr Weber's eye and nodded, a silent, profound thank you passing between them in the dark. High above their heads, the great bronze eagle was likely shaking on its pedestal. It was surrounded by fire and falling stone, entirely alone in the harsh, violent night. But down in the cellar, there was no isolation. There was a quiet, stubborn web of humanity holding itself together. Clara began to hum. It was a very old, very soft lullaby about a silver moon and sleeping fields. She kept her voice low, a gentle vibration against Leo's cheek. Slowly, a young woman sitting across the aisle picked up the melody, adding her own soft harmony. Then, the baker from the corner joined in, his voice a deep, comforting rumble. Soon, the entire cellar was filled with a delicate, woven tapestry of song. They were not singing to drown out the war. They were singing to remind themselves that they were still there. They were singing to fill the dark space with something human, something warm, something that the metal birds in the sky could never touch or destroy. It is these exact, fragile moments that are so often lost beneath the heavy rubble of history. The history books document the tons of steel that fell, the buildings that crumbled, the borders that shifted in the night. But they rarely tell us about the peppermint drop. They rarely write down the lyrics of the lullaby sung in the dark. Finding these quiet whispers, dusting them off, and bringing them back into the light takes a tremendous amount of time, care, and dedication. I spend my days sifting through old letters, forgotten diaries, and silent archives to find people like Clara, Leo, and Herweber, so that their quiet courage is not forgotten. If you find peace in these stories, and if you feel moved to support the deep, massive research it takes to craft these gentle documentaries, I would be so incredibly grateful for your help. I have set up a Ko-Fi page where you can leave a tip as small as $1. It is like buying me a warm cup of tea to keep me going during the long hours in the archives. But please, to keep yourself safe, only use the secure link I've placed in the description below. If you try to search for this on the internet, the top results are unfortunately often fake websites designed to scam you, and I want to make sure you are protected. Knowing you are safe and supported is what matters most. Now, let us return to the cellar, as the long night finally begins to soften. Hours passed. The distant thunder slowly rolled away, fading into the edges of the horizon until there was nothing left but the thick, ringing silence of the basement. The kerosene lamp had burned down to a fragile, sputtering orange glow. Leo had fallen fast asleep, his small hand still clutching the fabric of Clara's coat. Then, cutting through the stillness, came a different sound. It was the siren again, but this time, it was a single, long, continuous note. The all clear. A collective, shuddering sigh swept through the cellar. Shoulders dropped. Stiff legs were stretched. The danger had passed, at least for tonight. Slowly, the neighbors stood up. They gathered their small suitcases, their thermos flasks, and their sleeping children. They began the slow, tired climb up the wooden stairs, moving toward the heavy door that led back out into the world. When Clara pushed the door open, the air that greeted them was sharp and cold, smelling heavily of crushed brick, burning wood, and plaster dust. The morning sun was just beginning to break over the horizon, casting a pale, bruised light over the city. The street looked different. The skyline had been violently rearranged. Buildings that had stood for centuries were now jagged teeth against the sky. A layer of gray ash covered the cobblestones like a strange, summer frost. Clara held Leo close, stepping carefully out onto the pavement. She looked down the avenue toward the Chancellery. Through the haze of smoke and dust, the great building still stood. And there, perched high upon the roof, catching the first pale rays of the morning sun, was the bronze eagle. It was covered in a thick layer of soot, its sharp edges dulled by the ash. It had survived the night. But as Clara looked at it, she realized something profound. The eagle was strong, yes. It was made of unyielding material. But it was entirely alone. It had no one to hum to it in the dark. It had no one to share a piece of candy with when the earth shook. The eagle was just a piece of cold metal, surviving only because it could not feel. But Clara, and Leo, and Herweber, they had survived because they could feel. They had survived because they had leaned against one another, weaving a safety net of shared humanity in the darkest of places. The true strength of the city was not perched on a marble roof. It was walking out of the cellars, covered in dust, blinking in the morning light, holding tightly to the hands of the people they loved. Let the image of that quiet morning settle over you now. The storm has passed. The sirens are quiet. The long, dark night is over, and you are safe. There is nothing heavy left to carry tonight. The world will rebuild itself tomorrow, as it always does, but for now, you only need to rest. Let your breathing mirror the slow, peaceful rhythm of a sleeping city. Let the dust settle. Let the shadows fade. Drift away now, into a warm, unbroken quiet. Sleep well, my friend. Sleep well. When the guns finally stop, the first thing you notice isn't the victory, but the sudden, heavy weight of the silence. Welcome back, my friend. Let the world outside fade away now. Adjust your pillow, let the darkness of the room wrap around you like a soft velvet cloak, and take a long, slow breath. In and out. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to be. Tonight, we are stepping into a world where the thunder has ended. We are walking into the quiet aftermath, where the dust of history is finally, gently, beginning to settle. The air in Berlin on this day was thick, but not with the heat of fire anymore. It was thick with the scent of damp plaster, cold ash, and the strange, metallic tang of spent rain. The great Chancellery building, once a fortress of polished marble and soaring bronze, now stood as a hollow skeleton. The windows, which had once reflected the golden light of the afternoon sun, were now jagged, empty eyes, staring out at a city that was trying to remember how to breathe. Let us walk together through the ruins. Our footsteps are soft on the layers of gray dust that cover the grand hallway like a fall of winter snow. It is so quiet here that you can hear the faint, melodic whistle of the wind as it weaves through the cracked stonework. The echoes of the past have died down to a whisper. Among the ruins, we find a young man named Nikolai. He is not the face of a conqueror you would see on a monument. He is just a boy, really, barely 20, with a heavy woolen coat that has seen too many miles and boots that are caked in the mud of half a continent. His face is smudged with soot, and his eyes carry the distant, weary look of someone who has forgotten what a full night's sleep feels like. Nikolai wanders into the great courtyard of the Chancellery. He isn't looking for trophies. He isn't looking for glory. He is simply looking for a place to sit down, away from the biting wind. He finds a piece of a fallen marble column, smoothed by the hands of craftsmen long ago, and he sits. He takes off his heavy cap, letting the cool air touch his forehead, and he closes his eyes. For a moment, Nikolai isn't in a ruined empire. In his mind, he is back in his village, far to the east. He can smell the damp earth after a spring rain. He can hear the soft lowing of the cows and the rhythmic shik-shik of his mother's broom as she sweeps the porch. He thinks of the vegetable garden, the way the green shoots of the potatoes would peek through the dark soil, and the way the tea tasted when it was brewed over an open fire. These are the things that kept him walking through the fire, not maps, not borders, but the memory of a wooden gate and a warm kitchen. He opens his eyes and looks across the courtyard. There, half buried in a pile of shattered stone and twisted metal, lies the eagle. It is no longer the proud, terrifying creature that looked down from the roof. It has fallen from its height. One of its great bronze wings is buckled, pinned beneath a block of granite. Its head is turned to the side, resting in the dust. The bronze, once so polished and bright, is now scarred by bullets and blackened by smoke. To Nikolai, it doesn't look like a symbol of power anymore. It looks like a heavy, broken toy, discarded in the wake of a storm. He stands up and walks over to it. He reaches out a hand that has held a rifle for years, and gently touches the cold metal of the bird's beak. It is freezing to the touch, as indifferent in defeat as it was in its glory. Nikolai feels a strange wave of pity, not for the symbol, but for the world that had to break itself apart to bring this heavy thing down. He realizes that for all its size, the eagle couldn't save anyone. It couldn't feed a hungry child, and it couldn't bring a single soldier back to his mother. As he turns to leave the eagle behind, his boot catches on something small. He kneels down, brushing away a layer of fine white dust. It is a photograph. The edges are scorched, and the paper is brittle, but the image is still clear. It shows a man and a woman standing in a park, laughing. The woman is wearing a hat with a small silk flower, and the man has his arm around her waist, looking at her as if she were the only thing in the world. Nikolai doesn't know who they are. They might have been clerks in this building, or perhaps they lived in the apartment block across the street. But in this moment, they are his family. They are the human heart of the rubble. He doesn't throw the photo away. Instead, he finds a small, dry niche in a standing wall, a place where the rain won't reach, and he sets the photograph there, upright. He clears the dust from the woman's face with his thumb and leaves it in the quiet, a small shrine to the love that existed before the stones fell. This is the hidden side of history, the stories that happen in the shadows, away from the grand speeches and the shifting lines on a map. We often only see the surface, the great bronze birds and the marble halls, but the true pulse of the world is found in the quiet moments of mercy, the secret letters, and the private hopes of those caught in the tide. I've always felt that these shadow stories are the ones that truly shape who we are. They are the secret operations of the human spirit. Because I know you feel that same connection to these forgotten truths, I wanted to share something with you that I think you'll find deeply moving. I've put together a special gift for my friends in our quiet community, a free ebook called The Shadow War, 5 Top Secret Operations That Shaped World War II. It's filled with the kind of deep dive, human-focused history we talk about here, stories of espionage, hidden heroes, and the silent maneuvers that changed everything. It's my way of saying thank you for sitting here in the quiet with me. Please, to keep yourself safe, only use the secure link I've placed in the description below. If you try to search for this on the internet, the top results are unfortunately often fake websites designed to scam you, and I want to make sure you are protected. I want our journey through history to be a safe haven for you, always. Now, let's return to Nikolai in the deepening twilight of the courtyard. The sun is beginning to set, casting long, golden fingers of light through the skeletal remains of the Chancellery. The shadows of the ruined columns stretch out across the dust like the fingers of a giant. Nikolai stands and pulls his cap back on. He has to return to his unit, to the soup kitchens and the tents, but for a moment, he lingers. He looks at the eagle one last time. In the fading light, it seems to be melting back into the earth. Soon, men will come with blowtorches and cranes. They will cut the bronze into pieces. They will melt it down, and perhaps, in a few years, this same metal will become the pipes for a new apartment building, or the bells for a rebuilt church, or the bronze hinges on a family's front door. The metal will be freed from being a symbol and allowed to be useful again. It will be allowed to help people live, rather than reminding them how to fear. Nikolai walks out through the main gates. Outside, the city is beginning to stir in a different way. He sees a woman in a tattered coat clearing bricks from a sidewalk, one by one, piling them neatly to the side. He sees 2 children playing a game with a piece of string in the doorway of a ruined shop. He sees a man sharing a crust of bread with a stray dog. The silence is no longer heavy. It is a clean silence. It is the silence of a blank page, waiting for the first word to be written. He feels a sudden, sharp ache of hope in his chest. The war is over. The eagle has fallen. The grand, cold marble is broken. But the people are still here. They are tired, they are hungry, and they are grieving, but they are moving. They are picking up the bricks. They are sharing the bread. They are finding the photographs in the dust. As Nikolai walks down the center of the road, he starts to whistle a low, soft tune, the same one his mother sang while she worked in the garden. The sound carries in the still air, a small, human vibration in the vastness of the ruins. He doesn't look back. He looks forward, toward the horizon, where the first stars are beginning to peek through the smoke. And so, my friend, let the silence of the rubble bring you peace tonight. The great storms of history always pass. The heavy bronze symbols always fall. What remains, always, is the quiet resilience of the human soul and the small kindnesses that bridge the dark. The dust has settled. The wind has died down. The photograph is safe in its niche, and Nikolai is walking toward home. You can let go of the day now. Let your thoughts be as light as the ash on the wind. Your room is a sanctuary, far away from the ruins, filled only with warmth and quiet. Breathe in the peace of the new silence. Let your eyes grow heavy, and feel the gentle pull of a dreamless, restorative sleep. The world is at rest, and so are you. Sleep well, my friend. Sleep well. It felt as though the metal itself was tired of holding its breath. Welcome, friend. Take a moment to adjust your surroundings. Perhaps dim the lights, let the soft glow of a lamp be your only companion, and feel the weight of your day begin to lift. We are back in the quiet spaces of the past, away from the rush of the modern world. Tonight, there are no deadlines, no noise, and no pressure. Just the gentle unfolding of a story that time almost forgot. Breathe in the cool, still air of your room, and as you exhale, let's walk together into the ruins of a city that is finally beginning to find its peace. Imagine we are standing on the high, skeletal roof of the Reich Chancellery. The war has ended, and the great silence has settled over Berlin. From up here, the city looks like a landscape of pale bone and gray ash, but if you look closely, you can see the small signs of life returning, thin ribbons of smoke from cooking fires, the distant rhythm of a hammer, a single piece of bright laundry fluttering from a shattered window. Up on this roof, the wind has a different voice. It doesn't howl, it whispers through the twisted iron and the jagged stone. And there, standing before us, is the eagle. Up close, the bird is far larger than it ever seemed from the ground. Its bronze feathers are as wide as a man's torso, and its beak is a sharp, unyielding curve that seems to slice the very air. But the terror it once inspired has faded. Now, it is just a heavy, lonely object, covered in the fine, white dust of the city's collapse. It feels less like a god and more like a ghost. Let's meet Mikhail. He is an engineer, but his hands were made for fixing clocks, not for dismantling empires. He is a quiet man with eyes the color of a winter sea and a heart that longs for the sunflower fields of his home. He wears a heavy, oil-stained coat and carries a leather satchel of tools that clink softly with every step. Mikhail has been tasked with a job that many would find triumphant, but for him, it is simply a labor of necessity. He has been told to bring the bird down. Mikhail doesn't approach the eagle with anger. He approaches it with the patient, methodical care of a craftsman. He walks around the massive stone pedestal, his boots crunching on the fragments of glass that look like fallen stars in the dust. He reaches out a hand, his fingers are rough, calloused, and stained with grease, and he touches the cold bronze of the eagle's claw. He feels the vibration of the city through the metal. He feels the immense weight of it, the way it seems to want to sink back into the earth. To Mikhail, this isn't a symbol of a regime. It is 5 tons of bronze that is occupying a space where a garden might one day grow. He looks at the eagle's eye, a blank, unseeing circle, and he thinks of the thousands of eyes that looked up at this bird in fear. He thinks of his sister, who wrote to him about the nights she spent hiding in the cellar, clutching a small rag doll and praying for the sun to rise. Beside Mikhail is Sergei. Sergei is younger, with a restless energy and a laugh that sounds like a bubbling brook. He is holding the heavy steel cables that will be used to lower the Colossus. For a moment, the two men stop. The sun is beginning to set, painting the ruins of Berlin in shades of soft amber and bruised violet. Sergei reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small, crumpled photograph. It's a picture of his 3-year-old daughter, a little girl with pigtails and a gap-toothed grin. He shows it to Mikhail. They don't speak, they don't need to. In that silent courtyard, high above the world, the photograph of a laughing child is more powerful than the bronze bird. It is the reason they are here. It is the reason they are working to clear the rubble, so that the children of the future can walk on these streets without looking up in dread. Mikhail takes a deep breath, the scent of cold stone and old soot filling his lungs. He begins to work. He isn't using explosives or heavy hammers. He is using wrenches and pulleys. He is unbolting the bird, piece by piece, as if he were taking apart a giant, broken clock. Clank. A heavy bolt falls into the dust. Creak. A joint that hasn't moved in years groans as it is forced to let go. The process is slow. It is rhythmic. It is almost a meditation. Mikhail focuses on the small things, the way the rust has formed in the shape of a teardrop near the eagle's wing, the way the light catches the copper in the bronze. He finds a small, handwritten note tucked into a crevice of the stone pedestal. It's a letter from a construction worker who helped build this place years ago. The letter doesn't talk about glory, it talks about how much the man's feet ached and how he hoped his wife would have potato soup waiting for him when he got home. Mikhail smiles. Even in the heart of this cold, imposing place, the human story was always there, hidden in the cracks. As the sun dips below the horizon, the crane begins to groan. The steel cables go taut, humming like the strings of a giant harp. Mikhail stands back, wiping his brow with the back of his hand. He watches as the eagle, the great, terrifying colossus, is slowly, gently tilted forward. It doesn't fall with a crash. It descends with a heavy, graceful dignity. It looks, for a moment, as though it is finally trying to fly, but the earth is calling it home. Seeing the sheer scale of this bird as it hovers in the air, you realize how much history is contained in a single object. Sometimes, we need to see these things, to touch them or to see them captured on a screen, to truly understand the world our ancestors lived through. It's a way of honoring their resilience. If you find yourself drawn to these physical connections to the past, I want to share a gentle recommendation with you. Amazon has an incredible collection of authentic World War II memorabilia that allows you to hold a piece of that story in your own hands. Or, if you prefer to see the grand, sweeping scale of that era brought to life with stunning visual detail, the movie Midway on Prime Video offers a truly immersive look at the courage of those who faced the storm. Both are wonderful ways to deepen your understanding and keep these human stories alive. Please, to keep yourself safe, only use the secure link I've placed in the description below. If you try to search for this on the internet, the top results are unfortunately often fake websites designed to scam you, and I want to make sure you are protected. It's important to me that your journey into history remains a safe and peaceful one. Now, let's return to that high roof in the gathering dark. The crane lowers the eagle down, inch by inch. Mikhail guides the cables, his movements calm and steady. Below, in the courtyard, a small crowd of people has gathered. They aren't soldiers. They are the Trümmerfrauen, the women of the rubble. They have spent their day clearing bricks and sorting stones, their hands red and raw from the cold. They stand in the twilight, their shawls pulled tight around them, watching the eagle descend. When the bird finally touches the ground, it happens with a soft, muffled thud. A cloud of white dust rises up, swirling in the air like a ghost before settling back onto the bronze. The eagle is down. It lies on its side in the courtyard, one wing pointed toward the stars, the other pressed into the dirt. Up close, the women look at it with a mixture of awe and exhaustion. One woman, an elderly grandmother with a face like a dried apple, walks up to the fallen bird. She doesn't spit on it. She doesn't strike it. She simply reaches out and places a tired, shaking hand on its wing. She stands there for a long time, her eyes closed. Perhaps she is remembering the husband she lost, or the house that burned, or the years of hunger. Or perhaps she is just feeling the cold of the metal and realizing that it can no longer hurt her. Mikhail descends the scaffolding, his boots echoing in the empty hallways. When he reaches the courtyard, he finds Sergei already there, leaning against the eagle's head. Sergei offers him a thermos of bitter, acorn coffee. They sit together on the bronze wing, two tired men in a ruined city. "It's just metal," Sergei says softly, his voice barely a whisper in the dark. Mikhail nods. "Yes. Just metal. Tomorrow, they will bring the torches. They will cut it into pieces. They say they will use the bronze to repair the pipes in the hospital. Or maybe they will make bells for the church in the square." The thought brings a quiet peace to Mikhail's heart. The metal that was used to represent power and fear will be transformed. It will carry water to the sick. It will ring out the hours for the faithful. It will be returned to the service of the people, stripped of its arrogance and made humble once again. High above, the moon rises over Berlin, a pale sliver of silver in a sea of ink. The ruins are silent now. The eagle lies in the dust, no longer a colossus, just a collection of shadows and scars. The Trümmerfrauen have returned to their makeshift homes, to their soup and their shared blankets. Mikhail stands up and picks up his satchel. He looks at the eagle one last time. He thinks of the clock he will fix when he finally goes home, a small, delicate thing with a heart of brass and silver. He thinks of the way the gears will click together, marking the passage of time in a world that is finally moving forward. He walks out of the courtyard, his footsteps steady on the cobblestones. The shadow of the eagle no longer follows him. The sky is open. The air is clear. And for the first time in a very long time, the city of Berlin is allowed to sleep without fear. And so, my friend, you can let go of the weight of your day now. The giants have fallen. The symbols have been laid to rest. The world is being rebuilt, piece by piece, in the quiet, hidden corners of the heart. Let your breathing slow. Let the rhythm of the night wash over you. The heavy bronze is gone, and in its place, there is only the soft, gentle pulse of the stars. You are safe. You are cared for. And the morning will bring a new light, a new warmth, and a new story. Close your eyes. Feel the softness of your pillow. Let the whispers of the past fade into a beautiful, restorative silence. Sleep now, deeply and peacefully. Good night. A single shard of bronze, no bigger than a thumbnail, could buy enough flour to see a family through a long, hungry week. Welcome back, my friend. Let the world outside your window dissolve into the soft, indigo shadows of the night. There is no need for hurry here, no need for the loud, clattering noise of the day. You are safe. You are tucked away in a quiet corner of time where the air is still and the stories are gentle. Breathe in the cool, night air, and as you exhale, feel your body becoming heavy, sinking deeper into the soft embrace of your bed. Tonight, we are wandering through a city that is learning to survive in the silence, where the grand symbols of the past have been broken into tiny pieces, hidden in the pockets of those who only wish to see the morning. Imagine the streets of Berlin in the weeks following the Great Silence. The dust has settled, but the air still carries a faint, chalky scent of crushed brick and ancient mortar. The city is a landscape of mountains and valleys made of stone, a world where the familiar landmarks have been replaced by jagged silhouettes against the moon. But if you look closely, in the early morning light, you will see shadows moving, not the shadows of soldiers, but the shadows of the survivors. They are the rubble dwellers, people who have learned to find life in the cracks of the ruins. Among them is Frau Wagner. She is a woman of quiet dignity, her silver hair tucked neatly beneath a woolen scarf, her hands reddened and rough from the work of clearing the streets. She carries a small, sturdy canvas bag, its bottom reinforced with pieces of twine. Frau Wagner is not looking for gold or jewels. She is looking for the eagle. The great bronze bird that once stood so arrogantly atop the Chancellery has been brought low, but it has not disappeared. It has been transformed. In the desperate economy of the ruins, the eagle has become a currency of survival. As the official crews worked with their torches to dismantle the colossus, small fragments would often fall into the gray dust, a splinter from a wing, a jagged piece of a claw, a rounded bit of a bronze feather. To the world, these were scraps of a defeated empire. To Frau Wagner, they were bread. They were milk. They were a bit of coal to keep the damp chill from her granddaughter's bones. One afternoon, as the sun hung low and orange behind the skeletal remains of a church, Frau Wagner found herself near the edge of the Chancellery courtyard. The air was cold, biting at her cheeks, but she kept her head down, her eyes scanning the ground with practiced patience. There, half hidden beneath a piece of charred timber, she saw a glint of dull gold. She knelt down, her joints aching with the movement, and brushed away the soot. It was a piece of the eagle's beak, a heavy, curved fragment of bronze about the size of a walnut. She picked it up, and for a moment, she just held it in her palm. It was surprisingly heavy, still retaining a faint warmth from the sun. She remembered a time, years ago, when she had stood on the sidewalk and watched the eagle being hoisted into the sky. She remembered the flags, the noise, and the strange, cold feeling in her chest as the shadow of the wings fell over her. Back then, the eagle seemed like an eternal, unshakable god. Now, it was just a cold piece of metal in her hand, destined to be traded for a bag of potatoes. The irony was not lost on her, but she did not dwell on it. In the ruins, there is no time for the luxury of philosophy, there is only the beautiful, urgent necessity of the present. She slipped the bronze into her deep pocket, feeling its solid weight against her thigh, and began the long walk toward the exchange of shadows. The exchange was not a grand market with stalls and banners. It was a quiet gathering of people in the hollowed-out shell of a former department store. The roof was gone, and the stars looked down on the transaction of human needs. There was no shouting, only the low, melodic murmur of voices, the clink of glass, and the rustle of paper. Here, you could trade a silver spoon for a tin of sardines. You could trade a silk ribbon for a handful of salt. And if you had a piece of the eagle, you had something truly valuable. The bronze was high quality, pure and strong, and there were craftsmen in the hidden corners of the city who knew how to melt it down, turning the symbols of war into the tools of peace, the handles for doors, the hinges for cabinets, the small, precious needles for sewing. Frau Wagner approached a man sitting on a wooden crate. He was an old watchmaker named Hans, his spectacles perched on the end of his nose, a small scale sitting on a velvet cloth in front of him. They did not need many words. She placed a fragment of the beak on the scale. Hans weighed it carefully, his movements slow and reverent. He looked at her and nodded. From beneath his coat, he produced a small, lumpy parcel wrapped in brown paper. It was a loaf of dark, dense rye bread, still smelling faintly of the oven, and a small jar of golden honey. The exchange was made. No flags were waved, no speeches were given. It was just one human being helping another to endure. Frau Wagner tucked the bread under her arm, the warmth of it seeping through her coat, and she felt a sudden, sharp flare of hope. The eagle was being eaten away, piece by piece, by the very people it had sought to dominate. Its strength was being traded for their life. In these quiet, flickering moments of the post-war world, we find the true heartbeat of history. It isn't found in the grand gestures of the powerful, but in the pockets of the defeated, where small scraps of metal became the seeds of a new beginning. We often only see the surface of these stories, the maps, the battles, the falling of the stones. But beneath that surface lies a world of secret resilience and hidden kindnesses that were never meant for the history books. Because I know you cherish these deeper, unseen layers of our shared past, I want to invite you into a space where we can explore them even further. I have built a quiet community on Patreon, a place where we can sit together away from the rush of the world. There, I offer free podcasts that delve into the quietest corners of history, along with unblurred, raw video sections that capture the stark, human reality of the war, images that are often too intense or too private for the public eye. It is also where I keep a small tip jar for those who feel moved to support the long, quiet hours of research it takes to weave these stories together. It would be a joy to have you walk this path with me. Please, to keep yourself safe, only use the secure link I've placed in the description below. If you try to search for this on the internet, the top results are unfortunately often fake websites designed to scam you, and I want to make sure you are protected. In a world of shadows, it is important to find the true light. Now, let us return to Frau Wagner as she walks home through the moonlit ruins. The city is very quiet now. The only sound is the soft crunch of her boots on the gravel and the distant, lonely howl of a stray dog. She passes the Chancellery once more, its dark, skeletal towers reaching up toward the stars. She does not look up. She is thinking of her granddaughter, sleeping in a nest of blankets, waiting for the smell of fresh bread in the morning. She thinks of the eagle, or what is left of it. She imagines it scattered across the city, a piece in a baker's cupboard, a piece in a cobbler's drawer, a piece being melted down in a small, glowing furnace. The giant is gone, and in its place are thousands of small, secret victories of survival. She remembers a letter she received from her sister months ago, written in a shaky hand on the back of a grocery list. Her sister had written, "Everything we thought was solid has turned to dust, but the dust is where the flowers grow. Do not look at the sky, sister. Look at your hands. Look at what they can hold." Frau Wagner looks at her hands. They are dirty, they are tired, and they are beautiful. They are holding the bread that will keep her family alive. They are the hands that clearing the rubble so that a new world can find its footing. As she reaches her doorway, she stops for a moment and looks up at the moon. It is a pale, silver orb, indifferent to the rise and fall of empires, offering the same gentle light to the ruins as it did to the gardens of her youth. She feels a profound sense of peace. The eagle was a weight, a shadow that demanded her fear. But now, as a scrap in her pocket, it has given her freedom. It has given her a morning. She enters her home, the door clicking softly behind her. The room is dark, but she knows every inch of it by heart. She sets the bread on the table, the scent of rye filling the small space like a prayer. She goes to the bedside where her granddaughter lies, watching the soft, rhythmic rise and fall of the child's chest. She leans down and kisses the girl's forehead, her breath smelling of peppermint and old books. "Tomorrow," she whispers into the dark, "we shall have honey." And so, my friend, let the story of the broken eagle and the rye bread lull you into a deep, restorative stillness. The world may seem vast and cold, filled with heavy symbols that threaten to overshadow our lives. But remember that even the greatest colossus can be broken into scraps, and even the smallest scrap can be turned into a tool for love. You have no heavy burdens to carry tonight. The day is over, and the exchange has been made. You have given your effort to the world, and now the world gives you the gift of rest. Let your breathing become as soft and steady as the night wind. Feel the warmth of your blankets, the safety of your room, and the quiet peace of a heart that has found its way home. The ruins are silent. The stars are bright. The honey is waiting for the morning. Close your eyes now, and let yourself drift into the soft, velvet embrace of sleep. You are safe. You are cared for. Sleep well, my friend. Sleep well. The rhythmic clack of the wheels against the iron rails sounded like a heart trying to remember how to beat in the dark. Welcome back, my friend. Let the world outside your door soften and fade. Take a slow, deep breath, feeling the cool air fill your lungs and then leave you, carrying with it the lingering echoes of your day. There is no need for hurry here. We are stepping onto a train that is moving through a landscape of mist and memory, traveling at a pace meant only for reflection. Settle deep into your covers, let your eyes grow heavy, and let the gentle vibration of this journey lull you into a place of perfect stillness. The war had ended, but the movement of the world had not stopped. It had simply changed its purpose. In the quiet, moonlit nights following the Great Silence, the vast railway network of Europe became a ghost of its former self. Gone were the loud, clanking troop transports and the frantic rush of supplies. In their place were the midnight trains, slow, steady, and laden with the remnants of a world that was being quietly disassembled. Among these remnants, hidden beneath heavy, oil-stained tarpaulins, were the fractured pieces of the great bronze eagle. Let us imagine we are sitting in the small, cramped cab of a steam locomotive as it chuffs through the darkened countryside. The air here is a tapestry of scents, the sharp, metallic tang of coal smoke, the warm smell of lubricating oil, and the damp, earthy fragrance of the night fog pressing against the glass. The firebox door is cracked open just a sliver, casting a soft, pulsing orange glow over the floorboards, painting the world in shades of amber and shadow. At the controls is Peter. He is a man who has spent 30 years on the rails. His hands are mapped with the soot of 1,000 journeys, his fingernails permanently stained by the engine's grease. He moves with a slow, practiced grace, his touch on the brass levers as gentle as a musician's on his instrument. Peter loves the night. In the dark, the scars on the land, the craters in the fields, the skeletal remains of bridges, are softened by the mist. In the night, the world feels as though it could be whole again. Behind Peter's locomotive are 6 flatbed cars. On these cars, the eagle's wings, its talons, and its great, scarred head rest in silence. They are being moved away from the ruins of Berlin, destined for a foundry far to the south where they will be melted into something new, something useful. But to Peter, they are simply a burden he has been asked to carry. He does not think of them as symbols. He thinks of them as weight. Every time the train climbs a gentle grade, he feels the engine strain against the mass of that bronze, the steam hissing in protest, the wheels spinning for a fleeting second on the damp iron. Peter reaches into the pocket of his heavy wool jacket and pulls out a small, tattered photograph. It is a picture of his wife, Martha, standing in their small garden before the world turned gray. She is holding a basket of apples, her face lit by a sun that feels a lifetime away. Peter traces the curve of her smile with his thumb. He hasn't seen Martha in 3 years. He doesn't know if the garden still exists. But the weight of the eagle behind him is his way home. Every mile he moves this metal is a mile closer to the possibility of a garden, a basket of apples, and a quiet life. Standing on the narrow platform between the locomotive and the first car is a young guard named Stefan. He is barely more than a boy, his oversized coat swallowed by the shadows. He is shivering, not just from the biting night air, but from the immense, hollow silence of the cargo he is guarding. He looks at the shapes beneath the tarps and imagines he can hear the metal breathing, a slow, bronze rasp against the wood of the flatbeds. Peter looks back through the small window of the cab and sees the boy's shoulders shaking. He doesn't say a word. He doesn't have to. He simply reaches for a tin canister that has been resting near the warmth of the firebox. He pours a cup of hot, thin broth, mostly water and salt, but warm, and gestures for Stefan to come inside the cab. The boy enters, the warmth of the engine hitting him like a physical embrace. He takes the tin cup with trembling hands, the steam rising up to soften his tired features. For a few minutes, the only sound is the rhythmic chuff-chuff of the engine and the steady clack-clack of the wheels. There are no ranks here, no empires, no eagles. There are just 2 tired men sharing the warmth of a fire in the middle of a vast, dark night. Where is it going? Stefan whispers, his voice cracking. Peter stares out into the fog, his eyes fixed on the twin ribbons of silver rail stretching out before them. It's going to become something else, he says softly. That's the secret of the world, Stefan. Nothing ever really stays the same. We take the heavy things, we melt them down, and we make something that helps us live. Maybe it will be a bell. Maybe it will be a plow. Something that doesn't need a guard. Stefan nods, a small, genuine smile flickering on his face as he sips the warm broth. In that moment, the fear that had been coiling in his chest begins to unspool. He realizes that the giant bird behind them has no power here. It is just cargo. It is just metal moving through the night, as subject to the laws of steam and iron as any other piece of scrap. This is the hidden reality of history. We often see the grand arrivals, the public displays, and the final destructions. But we rarely see the quiet transitions, the long, cold nights where the remnants of the past were moved by tired men who just wanted to go home. We see the official photographs, but we miss the raw, unvarnished truth of the journey itself. History, much like this train, often travels through the night, carrying things that are too heavy or too raw for the bright light of day. There is a profound honesty in those hidden moments, the grime on the hands, the fear in the eyes, the small acts of kindness in a cold locomotive cab. Many of the most profound truths were kept out of the public eye, deemed too restricted or too unsettling for a world trying to forget. Because I know you value these deep, unfiltered connections to the human experience of the past, I want to share something truly unique with you. I have gathered a collection of digital media on my Gumroad page that captures the raw, uncensored realities of this era. Images and videos of the war and its aftermath that were never meant for the silver screen or the history books. These are the unseen parts of our story, the raw textures of a world in transition. It is a way to look past the polish and see the truth of what people like Peter and Stefan truly lived through. Please, to keep yourself safe, only use the secure link I've placed in the description below. If you try to search for this on the internet, the top results are unfortunately often fake websites designed to scam you, and I want to make sure you are protected. My wish is for this to be a safe space for you to explore the depths of our shared history. Now, let us return to the rhythmic heartbeat of the rails. The train begins to slow as it approaches a small, nameless siding deep in the forest. The steam hisses as Peter applies the brakes, the metal shoes biting into the wheels with a long, mournful cry. The world comes to a halt. The only sound now is the ticking of the cooling metal and the distant, lonely call of an owl in the pines. Stefan steps back out onto the platform. The fog has thickened, wrapping the train in a soft, white cocoon. He looks back at the flatbed cars, and for a moment, he sees something strange. One of the tarps has caught on a jagged piece of bronze and has been pulled back just a few inches. In the pale, watery light of the moon, a single bronze eye of the eagle is visible. It is a cold, blank circle of metal. But as Stefan watches, a bead of condensation, a single drop of night mist, rolls down from the edge of the eye, tracing a path through the soot like a tear. The boy doesn't feel afraid anymore. He feels a sense of profound relief. He walks to the car, reaches out, and pulls the tarp back over the eye, tucking the heavy fabric in tight. "Rest now," he whispers. "Your time is over." He walks back to the cab where Peter is waiting. The engineer looks at him and nods, a silent understanding passing between the generations. Peter pulls the whistle cord, not a sharp, piercing blast, but a low, gentle hoot that echoes softly through the trees. The train begins to move again. Chuff, chuff, chuff. The wheels begin their rhythmic dance. Clack, 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 clack. They disappear into the fog, the tail light of the last car fading into a tiny red ember before being swallowed by the white. By morning, the siding will be empty. The tracks will be cold. The eagle will be gone, moved another 50 miles toward its final transformation. And Peter will be 50 miles closer to Martha's garden. The night is a bridge, my friend. It carries us from the weight of what was to the hope of what could be. Every breath you take tonight is a mile traveled on your own quiet journey. You are moving toward your own morning, toward your own peace, leaving the heavy bronze shadows of the day far behind you. Let the sound of the steam engine fade in your mind. Replace it with the sound of the wind in the trees, a soft, shushing sound that tells you all is well. The cargo has been delivered. The rails are silent. There is nothing left for you to guard. Feel the warmth of your room, the softness of your pillow, the safety of your sanctuary. Your heart is beating in a steady, peaceful rhythm, unburdened and free. The world is at rest, and you are allowed to rest with it. Drift now, into the mist, into the quiet, into the deep. Sleep well, my friend. Sleep well. The sky feels lighter when it no longer has to hold up a shadow that was never meant to be there. Welcome back, my friend. Let the world outside your window settle into a soft, indigo hush. There is no need for you to be anywhere else but right here, in this moment of quiet reflection. Adjust your blankets, let your head sink deeply into the softness of your pillow, and take a long, slow breath in. Feel the cool air fill your lungs, and as you let it out, imagine all the tensions of your day dissolving like mist in the morning sun. Tonight, we are going back to a place of stillness. We are stepping onto the high, lonely roof of a building that once tried to speak for an entire world, but now, it only whispers to the wind. Imagine the grand stone pedestal atop the Reich Chancellery. For years, it bore a weight so immense that the very structure seemed to groan beneath it. The great bronze eagle, with its sharp wings and unblinking eyes, sat there as a sentinel of cold, hard certainty. But now, that weight is gone. The eagle has been carried away in the night, moved by trains, broken into scraps, and scattered into the pockets of the people. What remains is a void. An empty space. A square of weathered granite that looks up at the vast, open sky and finally, for the first time in a generation, breathes. It is a quiet morning in the city. The air is crisp, carrying the faint, sweet scent of linden trees and the earthy aroma of wet stone. The sun is just beginning to peek over the horizon, painting the jagged ruins of the city in shades of soft peach and pale gold. Down on the street, the world is slowly waking up. There is the rhythmic sound of a distant broom, the soft chime of a bicycle bell, and the low, comforting murmur of neighbors greeting each other. Let's watch an elderly woman named Liesel. She is walking slowly along the sidewalk, her hands tucked into the pockets of a worn, but neatly mended, woolen coat. Liesel has lived in this neighborhood all her life. She remembers when the Chancellery was built. She remembers the day the eagle was hoisted up, its bronze feathers glinting with a light that felt too bright, too sharp. For years, she walked this same path, always keeping her eyes down, feeling the heavy shadow of those wings pressing against the back of her neck. But today, Liesel does not look down. She stops at the corner, leans her head back, and looks up at the roof. Her eyes find the pedestal. It is a lonely, jagged thing now, its edges chipped by the storms and the fires. There are dark, rusted stains where the heavy bolts once anchored the bird to the stone. To someone who didn't know the history, it might just look like a broken piece of a building. But to Liesel, that empty space is a monument. It is a monument to the fact that the shadow is gone. She feels a strange, fluttering sensation in her chest, a mix of relief and a quiet, ancient sadness. The absence of the bird is more powerful to her than its presence ever was. It is a physical manifestation of a silence that she has been waiting to hear for a very long time. She remembers a letter she wrote to her sister during the darkest days of the war, a letter she never dared to mail. In it, she had written, "I dream of a day when I can look at the clouds without seeing a beak. I dream of a sky that belongs to everyone." Standing there on the sidewalk, Liesel realizes her dream has come true. The sky does not have a beak. The clouds are free to drift where they will, unburdened by the symbols of men. A small boy, perhaps 6 years old, comes running up to her. It is her grandson, Otto. He is full of the bright, restless energy of the morning, his cheeks rosy from the chill. He stops beside her, follows her gaze up to the roof, and tilts his head. "Grandmother," he whispers, his voice clear and curious. "What used to be up there? Why is that stone so lonely?" Liesel looks down at him, her face softening into a gentle, tired smile. She reaches out and smooths a stray lock of hair from his forehead. How do you explain a ghost to a child who only knows the sun? How do you describe a weight to someone whose heart is as light as a feather? "Once, a very heavy bird lived there, Otto," she says softly, her voice like the rustle of dry leaves. "It was made of bronze and it thought it owned the wind. But the wind is much stronger than bronze, and eventually, the bird had to go away." "Did it fly?" Otto asks, his eyes wide. "In a way," Liesel replies, thinking of the trains in the night and the scraps in the pockets of the hungry. "It flew into many small pieces so that people could find their way home. Now, that space is empty so that the birds of the forest have a place to rest when they are tired. It isn't a lonely stone, Otto. It is a waiting stone. It is waiting for the rain to wash it clean." Otto seems satisfied with this. He takes her hand, his small fingers warm and trusting against her calloused palm, and they continue their walk. As they move away, the image of the empty pedestal remains behind them, a silent witness to a world that is learning to be soft again. This is the beauty of history that often goes unrecorded. We focus so much on the things that are built and the things that are destroyed, but we rarely talk about the healing power of the space left behind. The empty pedestal is a place where the air is allowed to be still. It is a place where the memory of a burden meets the reality of freedom. Finding these quiet, human truths amidst the ruins of the past is a labor of love that takes me deep into the archives, sifting through the whispers of those who are no longer here to speak for themselves. I spend countless hours researching the lives of people like Liesel, trying to understand not just what happened, but how it felt to breathe in the aftermath. It is a massive undertaking to keep these stories alive, to ensure that the waiting stones of history are not forgotten. If you find comfort in these narrations, and if you feel moved to support the research and the time it takes to craft these gentle journeys, I would be so deeply grateful for your kindness. I have a Ko-Fi page where you can leave a small tip, as low as $1. It is like a warm, encouraging hand on my shoulder as I continue to search for the light in the shadows. Please, to keep yourself safe, only use the secure link I've placed in the description below. If you try to search for this on the internet, the top results are unfortunately often fake websites designed to scam you, and I want to make sure you are protected. Your safety and your peace of mind are the most important things to me. Now, let us return to the quiet rooftops of the city. As the morning progresses, a group of workers arrives at the Chancellery. They are not there to rebuild the past, but to clear away the dangerous remains. They carry heavy ropes and wooden ladders. Among them is a young man named Karl, who has a sprig of dried lavender tucked into his cap for luck. Karl climbs the scaffolding, his movements steady and careful. When he reaches the top, he finds himself standing right next to the empty pedestal. Up close, the granite is rough, scarred by shrapnel and blackened by smoke. He reaches out and touches the stone where the eagle's talons once gripped. It is cold, but as the sun hits it, the rock begins to hold a faint, lingering warmth. He notices something small tucked into a crack in the granite. He reaches in with 2 fingers and pulls it out. It is a tiny, withered wildflower that must have blown up there during the summer and gotten stuck. It is brittle and gray, but its shape is still perfect. Karl holds the tiny flower in his palm. He thinks of how strange it is that this fragile thing survived the storms and the fires that brought down a giant of bronze. He realizes that the pedestal isn't a place of death. It is a place where life, however small, is trying to find a foothold. He doesn't throw the flower away. Instead, he places it back into a deeper, safer crevice in the stone, a small secret kept between him and the roof. He looks out over the city. From here, he can see the smoke rising from the chimneys of the rebuilt houses. He can see the laundry hanging on the balconies, bright splashes of color against the gray stone. He can see the people walking in the park, their shadows short and soft in the morning light. The eagle is gone, and the mystery of its disappearance is a story that will be told for years. But for Karl, the mystery isn't where the bronze went. The mystery is how the world can be so beautiful even after it has been so broken. He feels a sudden, sharp surge of gratitude for the empty space. It is a window. It is an opening. It is a place where the future can finally begin to take root. The workmen begin their task, their voices echoing softly in the morning air. They work with a quiet, rhythmic energy, clearing away the jagged edges, smoothing the stone. They are not erasing the past, they are preparing the ground for whatever comes next. As the sun climbs higher, the empty pedestal begins to glow. The rusted stains of the bolts look like ancient markings, stories written in the language of iron and time. The wind whistles through the empty space, a long, low note that sounds like a sigh of relief. Liesel and Otto reach the park. They sit on a wooden bench beneath a grand oak tree whose leaves are turning the color of honey. Liesel watches Otto play in the grass, his laughter a bright, silver sound in the quiet. She feels the warmth of the sun on her face, the weight of her coat on her shoulders, and the peace of the morning in her heart. She looks up one last time at the distant skyline. The Chancellery roof is a small, gray line against the vast blue of the sky. The empty pedestal is invisible from here, but she knows it is there. She knows it is looking up, just like she is, at a sky that is wide enough for every bird, and every dream, and every quiet prayer. Let the image of that empty, sun-washed stone soothe you now. The heavy things of your day have been unbolted. The shadows have been lifted. You are standing in a space that is open, and quiet, and safe. There is nothing you need to hold onto anymore. Breathe in the peace of the morning sky. Let your heart become as light as the wildflower tucked into the stone. The world is at rest, and the silence is a gift. Feel the softness of your blankets, the safety of your room, and the gentle, rhythmic beating of your own heart. You are surviving. You are thriving. And you are allowed to rest. The clouds are drifting. The wind is soft. The waiting stone is clean. Close your eyes now, and let yourself fall into the deep, velvet embrace of a peaceful sleep. You are safe. You are cared for. Sleep well, my friend. Sleep well. In the flickering light of a candle, the bronze looked less like a weapon and more like a heavy, golden tear. Welcome back, my friend. Let the room grow small around you. Let the shadows soften their edges and the world outside become nothing more than a distant, forgotten hum. You are here now, in the quiet, and there is nothing you need to carry into the night. Take a slow, deep breath, feeling the cool air settle into your chest, and as you let it go, feel your body sink into the gentle embrace of the dark. Tonight, we are wandering into the dim, amber-lit corners of a city trying to find its way. We are stepping into the world of the black market, not a place of noise and greed, but a quiet world of whispers, where the remnants of the past are traded for the hope of a tomorrow. Imagine a small, narrow tavern tucked into the basement of a building that has seen better days. The air here is thick with the scent of old wood, cold pipe tobacco, and the faint, sweet aroma of chicory coffee steaming in mismatched cups. The light is provided by a few guttering candles stuck in green glass bottles, their flames dancing in the draft that whistles through the cracks in the ceiling. This is the realm of the weary, the place where the survivors gather to trade stories and secrets as much as bread and coal. Let us meet Heinrich. Heinrich is a man of quiet observations. Before the world turned gray, he was a restorer of fine clocks, a man whose life was measured in the rhythmic, silver heartbeat of gears and springs. Now, he sits in the corner of the tavern, his hands, still steady and precise, wrapped around a warm mug. He is known as a man who can tell the difference between a trinket and a treasure, but more importantly, he is a man who knows how to listen to the soul of an object. In the post-war silence of Berlin, the great bronze eagle of the Chancellery has become a ghost. It is no longer a single, terrifying entity looking down from a high roof. It has been fractured. It has become 1,000 small mysteries, hidden in coat pockets and tucked into the rafters of barns. To the officials, it is missing property. To the historians, it is a lost puzzle. But to the people in this tavern, a piece of the eagle is a heavy, cold burden that can be transformed into warmth. A man enters the tavern. He is wrapped in a coat that has been mended so many times the original color is a mystery. He looks around, his eyes tired and blinking in the candlelight, and then he moves toward Heinrich's table. He does not speak. He simply reaches into his pocket and places something on the wooden surface, hidden beneath his palm. Heinrich watches the man's hand. It is the hand of someone who has spent the winter clearing rubble, rough, caked with white dust, and trembling ever so slightly from the cold. The man slowly lifts his hand, and there, resting on the scarred wood, is a jagged shard of bronze. It is a piece of a talon. The metal is dark, weathered, and heavy. Even in the dim light, it carries a strange, somber weight. It isn't just a scrap of metal, it is a fragment of a dream that fell to earth. Heinrich does not pick it up immediately. He looks at the man. He sees the desperate, quiet fear in the stranger's eyes, the fear of a father who has nothing left to give his children but a piece of a fallen giant. Heinrich reaches out and touches the bronze with the tips of his fingers. It is freezing, as though it has retained the chill of the rooftop it once occupied. It was found near the south gate, the stranger whispers, his voice a dry rasp. My boy found it in the dust. He thought it was a star that had fallen from the sky. Heinrich nods slowly. He understands. In a world where the sun often feels blocked by smoke, a piece of bronze can look like a star to a child. He picks up the shard, feeling its density, its coldness. He thinks of the foundry where it was poured, the fire that gave it shape, and the silence it has witnessed since the guns fell still. He knows that this piece of metal could be traded for a bag of flour, a tin of lard, or a few precious sticks of firewood. But Heinrich also knows that this shard carries a story. Every object that passes through this tavern is a footnote in a larger, hidden history. There is a secret war happening here, a war of survival, where the weapons are kindness and the currency is memory. As Heinrich turns the bronze over in his hand, he is reminded of how much of our history is written in these quiet, unofficial spaces. We often hear about the grand strategies and the famous battles, but the true heart of the war was often found in the shadows, in the secret operations of the soul and the hidden maneuvers of those who worked in the dark to keep the light alive. It is these shadow stories that I find so deeply moving. They are the threads that hold the fabric of our humanity together during the storm. Because I know you value these deep, secret layers of history as much as I do, I want to offer you a way to explore them even further. I've put together a special gift for you, a free ebook called The Shadow War, 5 Top Secret Operations That Shaped World War II. It's a collection of stories about the missions that never made the headlines, the hidden heroes, and the quiet, high-stakes games of espionage that happened behind the scenes. I would be so happy to share it with you through my weekly email newsletter, where we can continue to uncover these mysteries together in the quiet of the night. Please, to keep yourself safe, only use the secure link I've placed in the description below. If you try to search for this on the internet, the top results are unfortunately often fake websites designed to scam you, and I want to make sure you are protected. In a world of whispers and shadows, I want our connection to be a place of absolute trust and safety. Now, let us return to that dim tavern, where Heinrich is still holding the piece of the talon. He reaches into his own pocket and pulls out a small, leather pouch. From it, he produces a silver coin, a real one, old and heavy. He places it on the table beside the bronze shard. It is far more than the metal is worth in simple weight, but Heinrich is not paying for the bronze. He is paying for the story. He is paying so that the man's son can have a warm meal and keep believing, for a little while longer, that stars can be found in the dust. The stranger takes the coin, his fingers brushing against Heinrich's hand. For a fleeting second, there is a connection, a shared warmth, a silent acknowledgement that they are both just travelers in a long night. The man nods, pulls his tattered coat tight, and disappears back out into the cold, moonlit streets. Heinrich is left alone with the shard. He picks up a soft cloth and begins to rub the surface of the bronze, cleaning away the soot and the white plaster dust of the ruins. As he works, the metal begins to glow with a dull, soulful luster. He thinks of the eagle, now scattered across 1,000 pockets, 1,000 drawers, 1,000 hidden jars. The mystery of the eagle isn't that it vanished. The mystery is how it became so many different things to so many different people. To some, it is a reminder of a dark time. To others, it is a way to survive. To a child, it is a fallen star. Heinrich realizes that by breaking apart, the eagle has lost its power to intimidate. It has been humanized. It has been reclaimed by the very earth and the very people it was meant to soar above. He remembers a letter he once saw, found in the pocket of a discarded uniform. It was a simple note from a mother to her son, and it said, "The world is very loud right now, my dear, but the dust will settle. When it does, look for the small things. The small things are where the truth hides." Heinrich tucks the piece of the talon into a hidden drawer in his small wooden box. He will keep it safe. Perhaps one day, years from now, a historian will come looking for it. Perhaps it will be reunited with its other parts in a quiet museum. But for now, it is a secret. It is a piece of the night, resting in the warmth of a clockmaker's care. He blows out the candle on his table. The smoke rises in a thin, silver ribbon, curling toward the ceiling before vanishing into the dark. Heinrich stands, his joints creaking softly, and walks to the tavern door. Outside, the city of Berlin is wrapped in a blanket of silence. The moon is a pale, frosted sliver, casting long, gentle shadows over the rubble. The air is cold and clean. Heinrich breathes it in, feeling the stillness settle into his bones. There are no sirens. There are no engines. There is only the soft, rhythmic sigh of a city at rest. He begins his walk home. His footsteps are quiet on the cobblestones. He looks up at the sky, at the vast, scattered diamonds of the stars, and he smiles. He knows that in 100 homes tonight, a small piece of bronze is helping someone stay warm, helping someone find hope, helping someone tell a story. The eagle is no longer in the sky, but its fragments are everywhere, woven into the quiet resilience of the human heart. And so, my friend, let the dust of the black market settle into peace tonight. The trades have been made. The secrets are safe. The heavy bronze is tucked away in a warm drawer. You have nothing left to trade, nothing left to worry about. The world is soft, and the night is kind. Feel the weight of your blankets, the stillness of the air, and the steady, peaceful beating of your own heart. You are a part of the story, a quiet thread in the grand tapestry of time. Let yourself drift now, away from the taverns and the shards, into the deep, velvet embrace of sleep. You are safe. You are cared for. Sleep well, my friend. Sleep well. Sometimes the loudest truths are whispered from the pages of a diary that hasn't been opened in 70 years. Welcome back, my friend. Let the world outside your door grow quiet and still. Take a moment to adjust your blankets, feel the soft weight of your pillow against your cheek, and let your breathing slow to a gentle, rhythmic pace. Tonight, we are moving away from the smoke and the ruins, leaving the cold, dark nights of the past behind. We are stepping into the present, or perhaps a time just before it, where the air is filled with the scent of old paper, cedar wood, and the quiet, golden dust of a library in the late afternoon. There is no rush here. The clocks have stopped their ticking, and the only thing that matters is the soft rustle of memory. Imagine a room tucked away in the corner of a vast, silent archive. The walls are lined with floor-to-ceiling shelves, holding thousands of boxes, each one a tiny coffin for a story that has ended. The light here is soft, filtered through tall, narrow windows that look out onto a peaceful courtyard where birds sing in the ivy. In this room, we find Anna. Anna is a keeper of secrets. She is an archivist, a woman whose life is spent in the company of ghosts. She moves with a slow, deliberate grace, her hands protected by soft, white cotton gloves. To Anna, history is not a collection of dates or maps, it is a collection of heartbeats captured in ink. She spends her days listening to the whispers of people who are no longer here to speak for themselves. She knows the loops of their handwriting, the way they pressed their pens harder when they were angry, and the faint, dried circles on the page where a tear once fell. Today, Anna is working on a collection of papers that arrived in an old, battered suitcase. They belong to a family that lived near the railway tracks in the south, far from the grand buildings of Berlin. As she carefully sorts through the fragments of their lives, old recipes, theater stubs, locks of hair tied with faded silk, she finds a drawer in a small wooden desk that has been stuck for decades. With a gentle, patient tug, the wood finally gives way with a soft, protesting groan. Inside, tucked away from the light, is a bundle of letters tied together with a simple piece of baker's twine. The paper is the color of tea, brittle and thin, but the ink is still dark, still vibrant with the energy of the hand that wrote it. Anna sits down in her worn velvet chair, the afternoon sun warming her shoulders. She unties the twine and opens the first letter. It is from a man named Thomas, written in the spring after the Great Silence fell. Thomas was a simple man, a railway worker who spent his nights on the iron rails. As Anna reads, the walls of the archive seem to dissolve, and she finds herself standing on a cold, misty platform in the middle of the night. Thomas writes to his wife, Maria. He doesn't talk about the eagle as a symbol of power or a mystery to be solved. He talks about it as a shadow that he carried in his heart. He writes, "The cargo we moved tonight was so very heavy, Maria. Not just the bronze, but the weight of all the things we've lost. When the tarp slipped and I saw that giant eye staring up at the moon, I didn't feel pride. I felt a great, hollow ache. I thought of our little Sophie and how she used to hide under the bed when the wind was too loud. I realized that this bird was the wind. It was the storm. And now, it is just a cold, broken thing moving toward a fire." Anna pauses, her thumb tracing the edge of the paper. She can feel Thomas's exhaustion, his longing for his home, and his quiet relief that the storm had finally passed. She realizes that Thomas was one of the men who helped move the eagle into the mists of history, not because he was told to, but because he wanted to clear the path for his daughter to walk in the sun. Letter after letter, the story unfolds. Thomas describes the secret transport, the way the men shared their meager rations in the cab of the locomotive, and the quiet kindness of a stranger who gave him a sprig of lavender to keep in his pocket. These letters were never meant for an archive. They were meant for a kitchen table, to be read by the light of a single candle. They were the bridge that carried Thomas home when the world felt like it was ending. Anna feels a sudden, profound connection to this man she has never met. She realizes that she is not just an archivist, she is a witness. She is the one who ensures that Thomas's quiet courage, his love for Maria, and his simple hope for the future are not swallowed by the shadows. She feels the pulse of the past beating in her own palms, a reminder that we are all connected by the same fragile, beautiful threads of humanity. It is a strange and moving thing, to hold a piece of history in your hands. Whether it is a letter, a photograph, or a small fragment of the world as it used to be, these objects have a way of making the past feel alive, breathing and warm. We often find ourselves searching for that tangible link, a way to touch the stories we've heard so that we can truly understand the people who lived them. As a friend who cares about these deep connections as much as you do, I want to offer a way to bring those stories even closer to your own heart. If you find yourself wanting to see the grand scale of this history or to hold a piece of it yourself, I've found that exploring authentic World War II memorabilia on Amazon can be a beautiful way to ground these narratives in something real. Or, if you'd like to see the courage and the human spirit brought to life with incredible visual depth, the movie Midway on Prime Video offers a stunning, immersive look at the people who stood against the tide. Both can be wonderful companions on our journey through the past. Please, to keep yourself safe, only use the secure link I've placed in the description below. If you try to search for this on the internet, the top results are unfortunately often fake websites designed to scam you, and I want to make sure you are protected. It's important to me that your exploration of history is filled with nothing but peace and safety. Now, let us return to the quiet archive with Anna. The sun is beginning to set, casting long, purple shadows across the floorboards. Anna has reached the final letter in the bundle. It is dated several years after the first, written on a piece of clean, white paper. Thomas is no longer on the rails, he is home. He writes of the garden they have planted, the way the sunflowers follow the light, and the sound of Sophie's laughter as she plays in the grass. He mentions the eagle one last time. He writes, "Sometimes, when I'm digging in the soil, I find a tiny piece of metal, a rusted nail or a scrap of old iron, and I think of that bronze bird. But then I look at my hands, and they are covered in the earth that feeds us. I realize that the eagle is gone, melted into the things that help us live. The shadow is gone, Maria. The sky is just the sky again." Anna folds the letter carefully and ties the twine back around the bundle. She feels a sense of deep, restorative peace. The mystery of the eagle's disappearance doesn't feel like a puzzle to be solved anymore. It feels like a transformation. The bronze was returned to the people, and the stories were returned to the families. The heavy, cold metal was replaced by the warm, living words of people who loved one another. She places the bundle back into the drawer, but she doesn't close it all the way. She leaves it just a sliver open, a way for the stories to breathe, a way for the light to reach them. She stands and walks to the window, looking out at the courtyard. The birds have gone to their nests, and the first stars are beginning to peek through the deepening blue of the sky. The archive is silent, but it is a full silence. It is the silence of 1,000 stories resting, waiting for the next heart to come along and listen. Anna takes off her white gloves, her hands feeling the cool evening air. She thinks of the thousands of drawers across the world, filled with letters and diaries, each one holding a tiny spark of the human spirit. She knows that as long as there is someone to read the letters, as long as there is someone to care about the whispers, the past will never truly be lost. It lives in us, in the way we choose to be kind, in the way we protect the ones we love, and in the way we hope for a morning without shadows. As Anna leaves the room, locking the door with a soft, final click, she carries the warmth of Thomas's words with her. She walks through the quiet hallways, her footsteps a soft, steady rhythm on the stone. Outside, the city is beginning to glow with the lights of 1,000 homes, each one a sanctuary, each one a story of its own. And so, my friend, let the quiet of the archive soothe you tonight. The letters have been read. The twine is tied. The drawers of the past are resting in the golden twilight. You have no heavy burdens to carry, no mysteries you need to solve. Your own story is unfolding in the soft, safe dark of your room. Breathe in the scent of cedar and old paper. Let your thoughts be as light as the dust motes dancing in the sunset. The world is at rest, and you are allowed to rest with it. Feel the warmth of your blankets, the stillness of the air, and the gentle, peaceful beating of your own heart. You are a witness to the beauty of the world, and you are cherished. The archive is dark. The courtyard is still. The sunflowers are sleeping in the garden. Close your eyes now, and let yourself drift into the deep, velvet embrace of a dreamless, restorative sleep. You are safe. You are cared for. Sleep well, my friend. Sleep well. The weight of a secret is often heavier than the metal it is made of. Welcome back, dear friend. Take a long, slow breath. Let the air fill your lungs with a cool, quiet peace, and as you exhale, feel the tension of the day simply drift away. There is no hurry tonight. The world outside is moving at its own frantic pace, but here, in our shared circle of shadow and light, time has slowed to a crawl. Settle deeper into your pillows. Let your limbs feel heavy and relaxed. We are going to step into a room that very few have ever seen, a room where the air is thick with the scent of old paper, beeswax, and the cold, metallic breath of a ghost. Imagine a house on a quiet, rain-slicked street in a city that has long since rebuilt itself. It is the kind of house you might walk past without a second thought, with ivy clinging to the bricks and a warm, amber light spilling from a single upstairs window. Inside, in a small study lined with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, sits a man named Stefan. Stefan is in the autumn of his life. His hair is the color of wood smoke, and his hands, once steady enough to repair the delicate hairsprings of pocket watches, now carry a slight, rhythmic tremor. He is a man who values silence. He is a man who has spent 40 years as a steward of a secret that has sat, quiet and cold, in a cedar chest at the foot of his desk. The room is silent, save for the soft, rhythmic drumming of rain against the glass and the occasional pop of a small fire in the hearth. Stefan reaches down and unlatches the chest. The wood groans softly, a familiar, tired sound. He reaches inside, his fingers brushing past old blankets and faded photographs, until they find something heavy. Something unyielding. With a soft grunt of effort, he lifts it out and places it on a velvet cloth atop his desk. It is a fragment of the eagle's wing. It is not a large piece, perhaps the size of a dinner plate, but it feels like it weighs as much as the house itself. The edges are jagged and raw, showing the violent marks of where it was once cut away by a blowtorch in the ruins. The bronze is no longer the bright, terrifying gold of the propaganda films. It is dark, weathered, and etched with the scars of fire and soot. Stefan runs a thumb over the cold metal. He does not feel triumph. He does not feel the rush of a collector who has found a rare prize. He feels a profound, quiet burden. To Stefan, this bronze is not a trophy. It is a piece of a story that ended in fire. He thinks of his father, a man who worked in the post-war railway yards, who had come home one night with this heavy scrap tucked inside his coat. His father had never spoken of it, only whispered that it was metal that should have stayed in the earth. For Stefan, keeping this piece of the wing has been an act of quiet, lonely resilience. He has kept it not because he loves what it represents, but because he fears what might happen if it falls into the wrong hands. He fears it being turned back into a symbol. He fears it being used to spark a new fire. And so, he carries the burden of its existence, keeping it hidden, keeping it silent, and ensuring that this piece of the eagle remains exactly what it is now, a broken, cold fragment of a failed dream. He reaches for a fountain pen and a sheet of cream-colored stationery. He is writing a letter to his grandson, a boy who knows nothing of the shadows of the past. His handwriting is slow and careful. "My dear Leo," he writes, "you will find this box when I am gone. Do not look at this metal with wonder. Look at it with a quiet understanding. This was part of a giant that tried to block out the sun. It failed because the sun is stronger than bronze. I have kept it so that it could never fly again. When you hold it, remember that we are the ones who decide what history stays alive and what history is allowed to sleep." Stefan pauses, the ink drying on the tip of his pen. He looks at the wing fragment and sees not just the metal, but the faces of the people who lived in its shadow, the bakers, the clerks, the mothers and the sellers. He realizes that by keeping this piece, he is also keeping their memory. He is a guardian of the silence they finally earned. History has many rooms, my friend, and some of them are kept locked for a reason. There is a weight to these stories that can be difficult to carry alone. We often feel a deep, quiet calling to look into the corners of the past that the world has forgotten, to understand the nuance and the human heart behind the heavy stone and cold metal. Because I know you are someone who cherishes these deep dives and the quiet, unvarnished truths of the soul, I want to invite you to join me in a place where we can explore these mysteries together. On my Patreon, I offer a sanctuary for those who love the quiet side of history. There, you'll find free podcasts that explore these personal narratives in even greater detail, and unblurred, raw video sections that show the reality of the war as it truly was, not as it was polished for the books. I also have a small tip jar there, for those who feel moved to support the hundreds of hours I spend in the archives, looking for people like Stefan. It is a way to find a community of like-minded souls who believe that history is best told in a whisper. Please, to keep yourself safe, only use the secure link I've placed in the description below. If you try to search for this on the internet, the top results are unfortunately often fake websites designed to scam you, and I want to make sure you are protected. My wish is for our shared journey to be one of absolute trust and safety. Now, let us return to that quiet study, where the fire is beginning to burn low. Stefan finishes his letter. He folds it carefully and places it on top of the bronze wing. He lingers for a moment, his hand resting on the cedar lid of the chest. He thinks of the millions of other fragments scattered across the world, the pieces in museums, the pieces buried in gardens, the pieces sitting in the drawers of other old men who are also keeping the silence. He realizes that the mystery of the eagle isn't just about where the metal went. It's about how we, as humans, choose to carry the weight of what we've done and what we've seen. It's about the quiet heroism of the stewards who refuse to let the shadows grow tall again. He closes the lid. The latch clicks, a small, definitive sound that seems to echo in the stillness of the room. The secret is tucked away again, safe beneath the blankets and the photos. Stefan stands and walks to the window. The rain has stopped, leaving the street shimmering under the yellow glow of the lamps. The sky is a deep, bruised indigo, and the air feels clean and new. He sees a neighbor walking a dog, their breath blooming in the chill. He hears the distant, comforting hum of the city moving on, unburdened by the bronze in his study. He feels a lightness in his chest. He has done his part for another day. He has kept the watch. He has ensured that for at least one more night, the eagle remains a ghost and the world remains at peace. He turns off the desk lamp. The room is plunged into a soft, velvety darkness, lit only by the dying embers in the hearth. Stefan walks to the door, his footsteps soft on the carpet. He looks back one last time at the chest in the corner, a dark shape in the shadows. He offers it a small, tired nod of acknowledgement, and then he steps out into the hallway, closing the door behind him. And so, my friend, let the burden of the past slip from your shoulders tonight. You are not the keeper of the cedar chest. You are not the guardian of the bronze. You are simply a traveler in the night, entitled to the same quiet peace that Stefan has found in the silence. The rain has washed the streets clean. The fire has turned to ash. The letters are written, and the heavy wings are still. There is nothing left for you to carry. Feel the coolness of your sheets, the safety of your room, and the slow, rhythmic beating of your own heart. You are part of the light now, far away from the shadows of the foundry and the ruins. Let your breathing become a gentle lullaby, carrying you further and further away from the stone and the metal. The sky is wide and open. The stars are watching over you with a soft, indifferent beauty. There are no shadows on your roof. There are no giants in your sky. Drift now, into the deep, into the quiet, into the dream. Sleep well, my friend. Sleep well. The history of a city is written not in stone, but in the soft, rhythmic rustle of paper beneath a scholar's lamp. Welcome back, my friend. Let the world outside your door grow quiet and still. Take a moment to adjust your blankets, feel the soft weight of your pillow against your cheek, and let your breathing slow to a gentle, rhythmic pace. Tonight, we are moving away from the cold bronze and the heavy ruins, leaving the loud echoes of the past behind. We are stepping into the present, or perhaps a time just before it, where the air is filled with the scent of old paper, vanilla, cedar wood, and the quiet, golden dust of an archive in the late afternoon. There is no rush here. The clocks have stopped their ticking, and the only thing that matters is the soft, papery heartbeat of memory. Imagine a room tucked away in the deep, quiet heart of a great library. The walls are lined with floor-to-ceiling shelves, holding thousands of gray boxes, each one a silent home for a story that has ended. The light here is soft, filtered through high windows that look out onto a courtyard where a single tree drops its leaves in a slow, graceful dance. In this room, we find a woman named Clara. Clara is a keeper of whispers. She is an archivist, a woman whose life is spent in the company of the forgotten. She moves with a slow, deliberate grace, her hands protected by soft, white cotton gloves. To Clara, history is not a collection of dates or numbers, it is a collection of human feelings captured in ink. She spends her days listening to the ghosts of people who are no longer here to speak for themselves. She knows the loops of their handwriting, the way they pressed their pens harder when they were anxious, and the faint, dried circles on the page where a tear once fell. Today, Clara is working on a collection of papers that arrived in an uncatalogued crate, a remnant of the days when the city was being rebuilt from the ashes. As she carefully sorts through the fragments, old requisition forms, telegrams, and staff lists, she finds a folder tucked at the very bottom, labeled simply with a handwritten note that says, "The Shadow." With a gentle, patient touch, she opens it. Inside is not a military document or a grand plan. It is a collection of letters from the ordinary people of Berlin, written during the years when the great bronze eagle first took its place on the roof of the Chancellery. These were letters never meant for a file, they were the private confessions of citizens living beneath the wings. Anna sits down at her polished wooden desk, the afternoon sun warming her shoulders. She picks up a letter from a woman named Elise. Elise wasn't a politician or a soldier. She was a mother who lived in a small apartment just a few blocks from the Grand Plaza. She didn't write to complain about the war or the state. She wrote to the architect's office about the light in her child's nursery. Clara reads the words, and the archive seems to dissolve around her. She can almost smell the scent of baking bread and the damp cobblestones of Elise's street. Elise wrote, "Every afternoon at 3 o'clock, the sun moves behind the great building. And every afternoon, the shadow of that bronze bird falls directly across my daughter's cradle. It is so large and so cold. I find myself moving her bed to the other side of the room, just so she can keep the last bit of the sun. It feels as though the sky is being taken away from us, one feather at a time." Clara pauses, her thumb tracing the edge of the paper. She can feel Elise's quiet fear, her maternal instinct to protect her child from a shadow she couldn't fully explain. She realizes that Elise saw the eagle not as a symbol of glory, but as a thief of light. It was a human moment, a mother's private worry, tucked away in a box for 70 years. Letter after letter, the rustling of the paper reveals more of these hidden truths. There is a letter from a young clerk who worked in the basement of the Chancellery, who wrote to his sweetheart about the sound of the wind whistling through the eagle's wings at night. He said it sounded like a lonely, metallic sigh, as if the bird itself was tired of being a giant. There is a note from a gardener who tended the courtyard, who quietly rescued a sparrow that had injured its wing against the bronze statue, nursing it back to health in a small box lined with wool. These letters were the true pulse of the city. While the world looked at the bronze and the stone, the people were looking at the sparrows and the shadows. They were practicing quiet resilience, keeping their humanity alive in the smallest of ways. Clara feels a profound connection to these people. She realizes that her work is not just about organizing paper, it is about rescuing the light that Elise tried so hard to keep for her daughter. In these quiet, dusty archives, we often find things that are far more intense than what is shown in a museum or a history book. We find the raw, unvarnished reality of what people truly saw and felt when the cameras weren't rolling. There are images and stories that were kept hidden for decades, deemed too painful or too revealing for the public eye. They are the unseen parts of our history, the moments that catch in your throat and remind you of the immense weight of the human experience. As someone who feels this deep calling to honor the truth behind the veil, I want to share something truly special with you. I have gathered a collection of these rare, raw historical materials on my Gumroad page, images and videos that capture the uncensored reality of the war and its aftermath. These are the fragments of history that were too restricted for this platform, the scenes that show the world as it truly was, and all its harshness and its beauty. It is a way to look past the polish and connect with the raw heartbeat of the past. Please, to keep yourself safe, only use the secure link I've placed in the description below. If you try to search for this on the internet, the top results are unfortunately often fake websites designed to scam you, and I want to make sure you are protected. My wish is for our journey into these deep archives to be one of absolute trust and safety. Now, let us return to the quiet archive with Clara. The sun is beginning to set, casting long, purple shadows across the floorboards. Clara has reached the final item in the folder. It is not a letter, but a small, hand-drawn sketch on a piece of scrap paper. It shows the great eagle, but the artist hasn't drawn it as a powerful predator. Instead, they have drawn it with a small, delicate flower tucked under one of its bronze claws. There is a note on the back, written in a shaky, elderly hand. I saw a child leave this flower at the base of the pedestal this morning. The guards didn't see. The eagle didn't move. But for a moment, the bronze looked soft. Even the hardest things can be made gentle by a kind hand. Clara folds the paper carefully and places it back into the folder. She feels a sense of deep, restorative peace. The mystery of the eagle's disappearance is a story for the newspapers and the detectives. But the story of the flower and the sparrow and the mother's light, those are the stories that matter. Those are the stories that survive. She places the folder back into the gray box, but she doesn't tuck it away in the dark. She leaves the box on her desk, ready to be catalogued, ready to be shared. She stands and walks to the window, looking out at the courtyard. The archive is silent, but it is a full silence. It is the silence of 1,000 lives resting, knowing that they have finally been heard. Clara takes off her white gloves, her hands feeling the cool evening air. She thinks of the thousands of boxes still waiting on the shelves, each one a rustling forest of memories. She knows that as long as there is someone to listen to the paper, as long as there is someone to care about the shadows, the light will always find its way back into the room. As Clara leaves the library, locking the heavy doors with a soft, final click, she carries the warmth of Elisa's son with her. She walks through the quiet streets, her footsteps a soft, steady rhythm on the pavement. The city is glowing with the lights of 1,000 homes, each one a sanctuary, each one a story of its own. And so, my friend, let the rustle of the archive soothe you tonight. The boxes are resting. The letters are safe. The shadows of the past are being held by kind hands. You have no heavy burdens to carry, no mysteries you need to solve. Your own story is unfolding in the soft, safe dark of your room. Breathe in the scent of cedar and old paper. Let your thoughts be as light as the dust motes dancing in the sunset. The world is at rest, and you are allowed to rest with it. Feel the warmth of your blankets, the stillness of the air, and the gentle, peaceful beating of your own heart. You are a witness to the beauty of the world, and you are cherished. The archive is dark. The library is still. The flowers are sleeping in the courtyard. Close your eyes now, and let yourself drift into the deep, velvet embrace of a dreamless, restorative sleep. You are safe. You are cared for. Sleep well, my friend. Sleep well. Metal has a memory of the heat that birthed it, and the cold that followed. Welcome back, my friend. Let the world outside your window settle into a soft, indigo hush. There is no need for you to be anywhere else but right here, in this moment of quiet reflection. Adjust your blankets, let your head sink deeply into the softness of your pillow, and take a long, slow breath in. Feel the cool air fill your lungs, and as you let it out, imagine all the tensions of your day dissolving like mist in the morning sun. Tonight, we are going back to a place of stillness. We are stepping into a vast, silent warehouse on the outskirts of a modern city. The air here is cool, smelling of old oil, dry concrete, and the faint, sharp tang of iron. In this quiet space, we find Julian. He is a man who has spent the better part of a decade chasing shadows. Julian is a researcher, but not the kind who sits only in bright libraries. He is a seeker of lost things. He moves through the rows of wooden crates with a soft, steady gait, his flashlight cutting a narrow path through the darkness. The beam of light dances over dusty bicycles, stacks of old furniture, and forgotten machinery. To anyone else, this is a graveyard of junk. To Julian, it is a library of unspoken truths. For years, Julian has followed a trail of breadcrumbs, a mention in a soldier's diary, a faded photograph from a black market tavern, a whispered story passed down through a family of railway workers. He has been looking for a ghost. Specifically, he has been looking for the right wing of the eagle that once stood atop the Chancellery. He stops in front of a crate that looks no different from the others. It is large, flat, and covered in a heavy, gray tarp that has grown stiff with age. Julian reaches out, his hand trembling just a fraction. He can feel a strange, low vibration in the air, a hum of history that seems to emanate from the wood itself. He pulls back the tarp, and the sound of the heavy fabric dragging across the crate is like a long, slow sigh. He unlatches the wood. Inside, resting on a bed of straw and yellowed newspaper, is the bronze. Julian clicks off his flashlight. He doesn't need it. The moon, hanging full and silver outside the high warehouse windows, spills a pale light across the metal. There it is. The wing. It is massive, even larger than he had imagined in his dreams. The feathers are sharp and geometric, catching the moonlight in a way that makes them look almost liquid. But the bronze is no longer the fierce, arrogant gold of the past. It is scarred. It is bruised. It carries the marks of its long, secret journey through the world. Julian reaches out and places his bare palm against the metal. It is freezing, a deep, bone-deep cold that seems to travel up his arm and settle in his chest. As he stands there in the silence, he realizes he is not just touching a piece of a statue. He is touching a witness. In the quiet of the warehouse, the ghosts in the bronze begin to speak. Julian thinks of the foundry worker we met so long ago, the man with the soot-stained hands who poured this metal while thinking of his daughter's letters. He thinks of the baker who watched the eagle's shadow fall across his loaves of bread. He thinks of the typists who shivered in the cold marble hallways, and the groundskeeper who smuggled letters in his pockets. He thinks of the Russian soldier, Nikolai, who touched the beak of the fallen bird and felt only a weary longing for home. This wing has passed through all their hands. It has been a symbol of power, a scrap to be traded for flour, a secret kept in a cedar chest, and a shadow in a mother's nursery. It has been broken, hidden, and feared. And yet, here it is, silent and still, having outlasted the fire and the fury that created it. Julian closes his eyes, his hand still resting on the bronze. He feels an overwhelming sense of responsibility. He is the one who has brought this ghost back into the light. He is the guardian of its stories. He realizes that the eagle didn't just disappear into the mists of history, it wove itself into the lives of everyone who touched it. The mystery wasn't about where the metal went, but about how the metal changed the people it encountered. To look upon this wing is to look upon the resilience of the human soul. It is to remember that even in the presence of the most imposing shadows, people still found ways to be kind. They still shared their bread. They still wrote their letters. They still hoped for the sun. The bronze is heavy, yes. But the love and the courage that moved it through the dark are infinitely stronger. Finding these fragments of our shared soul is a long and often lonely journey. It takes months of quiet digging, of listening to the whispers of the past that others have ignored. It is a massive undertaking to piece together these stories, to ensure that the ghosts in the bronze are given a voice and that their quiet lessons are not lost to the wind. I spend my nights in the company of researchers like Julian, sifting through the dust of time to bring these gentle truths to you. If you find peace in these journeys, and if you feel moved to support the deep, painstaking research it takes to craft these narrations, I would be so incredibly grateful for your help. I have set up a Ko-Fi page where you can leave a small tip, perhaps just $1 or $2. It's like a warm, friendly gesture between us, a way to keep the lamp lit while I continue to search for the light in the shadows. Please, to keep yourself safe, only use the secure link I've placed in the description below. If you try to search for this on the internet, the top results are unfortunately often fake websites designed to scam you, and I want to make sure you are protected. Knowing you are safe and that we are walking this path together with trust means everything to me. Now, let us return to Julian, standing in the moonlit warehouse. He takes a soft cloth from his pocket and begins to wipe away the layers of dust that have settled on the wing. It is a slow, rhythmic process. As he cleans the bronze, the metal begins to glow with a soft, soulful luster. He sees the marks of the blowtorch where the wing was severed, and he sees the small, deliberate scratches made by people who wanted a tiny piece of the eagle to keep for themselves. He finds a small, rusted iron bolt still stuck in one of the joints. He touches it gently. He thinks of the engineers who brought the bird down, the men who dismantled the colossus not with anger, but with the patient care of those who were clearing the way for something new. He realizes that every scar on this metal is a story of survival. Julian pulls a small notebook from his coat. He doesn't write down dates or measurements. He writes down the feeling of the air in the room. He writes about the way the moonlight looks on the bronze. He writes, "The eagle is not a bird anymore. It is a mirror. It shows us our own capacity to endure. It shows us that even the heaviest things can be brought to rest if we carry them together. He spends hours in the warehouse, simply sitting beside the crate. He doesn't feel the need to rush. The wing has waited 70 years to be found. It can wait a few more hours to be understood. He listens to the quiet sounds of the building, the settling of the roof, the scuttle of a tiny mouse in the straw, the distant, muffled hum of the city asleep. The city outside is no longer the city of ruins. It is a place of bright lights and busy streets, a place where people walk without looking up in dread. The eagle is a ghost from a different world, a world that seems almost impossible now. But Julian knows that the two worlds are connected by the very bronze he is touching. The metal is the bridge. As the first light of dawn begins to touch the high windows, turning the pale moonlight into a soft, milky gray, Julian stands up. He covers the wing once more with the heavy tarp, tucking the edges in carefully, as if he were tucking a child into bed. He latches the crate, the sound of the metal meeting with a soft, final click in the stillness. He walks toward the warehouse door, his footsteps echoing gently on the concrete. He stops at the exit and looks back one last time. The crate is just a shape in the shadows now, invisible to the world. But Julian carries the weight of it in his heart, and he carries it with a sense of peace. He knows that tomorrow, others will come. The wing will be moved to a museum, where it will sit in a quiet room with soft lights. People will come and stare at it. They will read the plaques and look at the photos. But they will never truly know the wing like Julian does. They won't know the cold of the metal in the moonlight. They won't hear the whispers of the foundry worker or the baker. Julian steps out into the cool morning air. The sky is a pale, bruised violet, and the stars are just beginning to fade. He breathes in the fresh, clean scent of the new day. He feels a quiet joy in his chest. The ghost has been found. The story has been gathered. The bronze is at rest. Let the image of that quiet, moonlit wing soothe you now. The ghosts of the past are not here to haunt you, they are here to remind you of your own strength. The heavy things of history have been gathered and placed in safe hands. The shadows have been brought into the light and made gentle. There is nothing you need to fear in the dark. The world is at peace, and the morning is coming. Feel the softness of your pillow, the warmth of your blankets, and the steady, rhythmic beating of your own heart. You are a part of a long, beautiful line of resilience. You are surviving. You are thriving. And you are allowed to rest. The warehouse is silent. The crate is still. The ghosts are sleeping in the bronze. Close your eyes now, and let yourself drift into the deep, velvet embrace of a peaceful, restorative sleep. You are safe. You are cared for. Sleep well, my friend. Sleep well. Even the deepest scars on the bronze have a way of softening when they are finally touched by a hand that seeks only to understand. Welcome back, my friend. We are nearing the end of our long, quiet journey together. I hope you are feeling very heavy and very still, as though you are a part of the soft shadows of your room. Take a deep, slow breath, feeling the air move like a gentle tide through your body, and as you let it out, imagine all the sharp edges of your day becoming smooth and round. Tonight, we are stepping into a place where the air is cool and still, smelling faintly of lemon oil, old wax, and the metallic scent of a history that is finally, slowly, learning how to heal. We find ourselves in a conservation laboratory. It is a room of soft, diffused light and profound silence. There are no heavy boots here, no grand speeches, and no shadows of wings falling across the floor. Instead, there are long tables covered in soft white cloth, and the air is filled with the rhythmic, shushing sound of a tiny brush moving against metal. This is a place where the fragments of the great eagle have finally come to rest, not as symbols of power, but as patients in a hospital for the past. Let us watch Elena. She is a conservator, a woman whose entire life is dedicated to the delicate art of preservation. Elena does not work with fire or hammers. She works with magnifying glasses, soft cotton swabs, and a patience that spans generations. Her hands are steady, her movements as careful as if she were tending to a sleeping bird. Before her, resting on a velvet cushion, is a section of the eagle's breast. It is a piece of bronze that has seen the fire of the foundry, the cold heights of the Chancellery roof, the violence of the rubble, and the long, dark years of hiding. It is covered in the scars of its journey, deep pitch from shrapnel, blackened streaks from smoke, and the fine, web-like scratches left by the hands of 1,000 strangers. Elena does not try to erase these scars. She does not want the metal to look new, or bright, or terrifying again. To her, the scars are the most important part of the story. They are the evidence of everything the people lived through. As she gently cleans away the dust of the decades, she is performing a quiet act of mercy. She is revealing the truth of the metal without glorifying its intent. She is helping the bronze to remember its story, so that we might finally find peace within it. There is a quiet debate that lives in rooms like this, a conversation held in hushed tones between historians, survivors, and the children of those who came before. What do we do with the pieces of a giant that tried to steal the sun? Some believe the metal should be melted back into the earth, disappeared forever so the shadow can never return. But others, like Elena, believe that to hide the metal is to hide the lesson. They believe that by looking at the scars, we learn how to heal our own. Elena picks up a small, handwritten letter that was sent to the museum by an elderly man in a distant village. The man had kept a small fragment of the eagle's talon in a matchbox for 50 years. In the letter, his handwriting is shaky but filled with a strange, quiet dignity. He wrote, "I do not want this metal anymore. It is too heavy for my shelf. But I do not want it to be forgotten either. I want it to be placed somewhere quiet, where children can look at it and realize that even the strongest things can be broken, and that the only thing that truly lasts is the kindness we show one another when the stones are falling." Elena touches the letter with the same reverence she gives the bronze. She understands that healing is not about forgetting, it is about finding a way to carry the weight without being crushed by it. It is about taking the hard, sharp fragments of our history and placing them in a space where they can be understood, where they can be mourned, and where they can finally be made gentle. As she works, she thinks about the sparrows. She thinks about the gardener who rescued the bird with the broken wing in the Chancellery courtyard. She thinks about how life, in all its fragile, beautiful persistence, always finds a way to grow through the cracks in the bronze. The eagle was meant to be eternal, but it was the sparrow that survived. It was the baker's bread that sustained. It was the mother's lullaby that outlasted the sirens. We often think of history as a series of grand, loud events, but the true healing always happens in the shadows, in the secret, quiet places where we choose to look at the past with honesty and grace. There is a profound trust required to look into those shadows, to explore the hidden maneuvers and the secret stories that were never meant to be told. I've always felt that my role here, in this quiet space with you, is to act as a bridge to those hidden truths. Because I know you value the deep, unvarnished layers of our shared story, I want to share something with you that feels like a natural extension of our time together. I have put together a special gift for my friends in this community, a free ebook called The Shadow War, 5 Top Secret Operations That Shaped World War II. It is a collection of the most moving, hidden human stories from the darkest corners of the conflict, the operations that happened in the hush of the night, fueled by the same quiet resilience we've discussed tonight. I would love to send it to you through my weekly email newsletter, so we can continue to explore these whispers together. Please, to keep yourself safe, only use the secure link I've placed in the description below. If you try to search for this on the internet, the top results are unfortunately often fake websites designed to scam you, and I want to make sure you are protected. I want our journey through history to be a sanctuary for you, built on absolute trust and care. Now, let us return to Elena in the soft light of the laboratory. She has finished her work for the evening. The piece of the eagle's breast is clean, its surface glowing with a dull, respectful luster. The scars are still there, visible and honest, but the grime and the fear have been lifted away. Elena covers the fragment with a piece of soft, breathable linen, tucked in around the edges like a blanket. She stands and walks to the window. The sun has set, and the city outside is a sea of twinkling, peaceful lights. She can see the outlines of the trees in the park, the soft glow of apartment windows, and the steady, rhythmic pulse of a city that has long since healed its physical wounds. She thinks of the eagle, or what is left of it, scattered across the world. Some pieces are in museums, like this one, resting under glass. Others are still hidden in attics, or buried in gardens, or perhaps sitting on the desks of people who use them as paperweights, never knowing the weight of the story they hold. But for Elena, the mystery is no longer a source of anxiety. It is a source of hope. The eagle was a symbol of absolute, unmoving certainty, but it was broken into 1,000 different perspectives. It was humanized by the hands that held it. It was made small by the people who needed bread more than bronze. The mystery of the eagle is simply the story of how humanity reclaimed its own sky. She turns off the laboratory lights. The room is not dark, it is filled with the silver, forgiving light of the moon. Elena lingers in the doorway for a moment, looking back at the long tables. In the moonlight, the shapes beneath the linen covers look like soft, sleeping hills. There is no menace here. There is no shadow. There is only the quiet, restorative peace of a past that has been brought into the light and made safe. Elena walks out of the building, her footsteps a soft, comforting rhythm on the stone. As she steps out into the night air, she feels a light breeze touch her face. It is a clean breeze, free of the scent of soot and fire. She looks up at the sky, at the vast, open expanse of the stars, and she takes a deep, peaceful breath. The eagle is gone. The shadow is gone. The sky is just the sky again. And so, my friend, let the healing of the scars bring you peace tonight. You do not need to fix the world tonight. You do not need to carry the weight of the past. The hands of the conservators are at work. The letters are being read. The truth is being preserved with kindness and care. Feel the softness of your pillow. Let your breathing be as steady and calm as the moonlight in the laboratory. The day is over, and the scars are being tended to. You are safe. You are in a place where the shadows cannot reach you, where the only thing that matters is the gentle, rhythmic beating of your own heart. Let yourself drift away now, away from the bronze and the laboratories, into the deep, velvet embrace of a sleep that knows no fear. The world is learning to be soft. The stars are watching over you. The story is at rest, and so are you. Sleep well, my friend. Sleep well. In the end, even the heaviest bronze becomes a story told in whispers by the wind. Welcome, my friend, to this final quiet space. You have traveled a long way through the shadows and the light, through the foundries and the ruins, and now we have arrived at the edge of the present. Take a long, slow breath. Feel the coolness of the night air as it settles around you. Adjust your blankets one last time, let your head sink deeply into the softness of your pillow, and allow your body to become perfectly still. There is no more history to uncover, no more mysteries to solve. We are simply here to reflect, to breathe, and to let the past drift away like the last embers of a dying fire. Imagine we are standing in a small, peaceful park in the heart of modern Berlin. It is late evening, and the city has grown quiet. The grand avenues are still there, but the sound of the world is a distant, gentle hum, like the sea in a seashell. The trees in the park are tall and ancient, their leaves rustling softly in a breeze that carries the scent of damp earth and blooming jasmine. The sky above is a deep, velvety indigo, scattered with stars that have watched over this city long before the stones were laid, and will watch over it long after they are gone. If you look toward the horizon, you can see the rooftops of the city. There is no jagged silhouette of a bronze giant anymore. There is no shadow that steals the light from a nursery window. The sky is open. The sky is wide. The sky is free. The great eagle of the Chancellery has become a footnote. It is no longer a symbol of power, it is a fragment of memory. We have seen it scattered across the world, melted into bells that ring for Sunday morning, shaped into hinges for a family's front door, or hidden away in a cedar chest as a silent warning. The metal has been returned to the world of the ordinary. It has been humanized. It has been humbled by the very people it sought to overshadow. Think back to the master craftsman in the foundry, his hands stained with the soot of the first pouring. Think of his daughter, whose letters were the only thing that kept him warm in the heat of the furnace. Think of the baker, Johannes, who gave away an extra loaf of bread because he saw the shadow falling across the street. Think of the archivist, Anna, who held the brittle pages of a railway worker's diary with such reverence and care. These are the people who truly won the war. Not with grand speeches or iron wills, but with the quiet, persistent resilience of the human heart. They are the ones who carried the weight of the bronze when it was too heavy for anyone else. They are the ones who smoothed the jagged edges of history with their kindness. They are the ones who realized that even when the sky is blocked by wings of metal, the light can still be found in a shared peppermint drop, a whispered lullaby, or a sprig of lavender kept in a pocket. As we stand here in the quiet park, we realize that the mystery of the eagle was never about where the bronze went. The mystery was how something so cold and so heavy could be transformed into something so human. It was the way the people took a symbol of fear and broke it into 1,000 tiny pieces of hope. It is a beautiful thing to hold onto the past in a way that helps us grow. We seek out these stories, these artifacts, and these memories because they remind us of what we are capable of, not just the darkness, but the incredible, unyielding capacity for light. Sometimes, we want to bring that history a little closer to home, to see the scale of the world that came before us so that we can better appreciate the piece of our own. If you find yourself wanting to reach out and touch that history, to see the vastness of the era we have explored together, I want to share a gentle suggestion with you. For many, holding a piece of authentic World War II memorabilia found on Amazon can be a grounding way to connect with the human stories behind the metal. Or, if you wish to see the sheer, staggering scale of the events that reshaped our world brought to life with profound visual power, the movie Midway, available on Prime Video, offers a deeply moving look at the courage of those who faced the storm. Both are wonderful ways to honor the journey we have taken. Please, to keep yourself safe, only use the secure link I've placed in the description below. If you try to search for this on the internet, the top results are unfortunately often fake websites designed to scam you, and I want to make sure you are protected. In the end, your safety and your peace of mind are the most important things of all. Now, let us return to the soft rustle of the leaves in the park. The breeze is picking up slightly, carrying with it the softest, most delicate sound. It is the sound of time moving on. The footsteps of the foundry workers, the clack of the typewriters, the rhythmic beat of the midnight trains, they have all faded into this single, shushing sound. The stories are no longer written in bronze, they are written in the air we breathe. The eagle has been returned to the elements. It has been reclaimed by the earth and the wind. It is a ghost that has finally found its rest. And as the ghost fades, the city around us begins to glow with a different kind of light. It is the light of 1,000 homes where people are sitting down to dinner, where children are being tucked into bed, and where stories are being told in whispers. These are the true footnotes in the wind. The small, everyday moments of love and survival that sustain us. The way a neighbor helps a neighbor clear the rubble. The way a mother hums to her child in the dark. The way a researcher spends 10 years looking for a wing, just to ensure that the story is told correctly. This is the real power. This is the lasting legacy. The grand buildings may fall, and the heavy statues may be broken, but the human spirit is like the wind. You cannot catch it, you cannot cage it, and you certainly cannot overshadow it with bronze. It flows through the cracks. It survives the fire. It carries the scent of the sunflowers into the next morning. Look up at the stars one last time. They are so far away, yet they feel so close tonight. They are the same stars that the baker saw. The same stars that Nikolai watched from the ruins. They are the eternal witnesses to our quiet resilience. And tonight, they are shining for you. You have no more burdens to carry, my friend. The cargo has been delivered. The letters have been read. The scars have been healed. You are part of a world that is moving toward the morning, unburdened by the shadows of the past. Let your breathing become as slow and as steady as the rustle of the trees. Feel the warmth of your room, the softness of your blankets, and the safety of your sanctuary. The world is at rest. The city is asleep. The history is tucked away in the quiet archives of the heart. The eagle is gone. The wind is soft. The sky is yours. Close your eyes now. Let the last whispers of the story fade into a beautiful, restorative silence. You are safe. You are cared for. You are home. Drift now, into the deep, into the quiet, into the light of your own peaceful dreams. Sleep well, my friend. Sleep well.